Chapter 10:20. They were the strongest assassins of the Blood Tower. They were the ace assassins who could perform cross-region missions and enter the 6 perilous lands. They were omnipotent. Every one of them was a great Nirvana realm expert and had a lifespan of 10,000 years. They grew up in countless bloodshed and were the pillars of the Blood Tower. Without them, there would be no Blood Tower that was rising like the sun. But now, a newcomer who had just stepped into the Nirvana realm was going to be assessed as an ace assassin? Haha, no one knew who laughed first. In an instant, there was endless laughter in the Nirvana Blood Palace. Some were mocking, some were disdainful, and some were even contemptuous. "Do you know the assassin level?" asked the Iceberg Beauty. "I know." Lin Feng smiled slightly. In an instant, he raised his hand, and the source of light appeared dazzlingly, covering the Nirvana Blood Palace. The laughter stopped abruptly in an instant. Everyone was shocked and looked at him in disbelief, including the Iceberg Beauty. Among them, there were Sage Realm experts and Nirvana Realm experts, but no one was recognized by the source of energy. "You?" The Iceberg Beauty's pretty face changed, and she couldn't react for a while. "Please arrange it for me." Lin Feng smiled. On the top floor of the Mother Blood Tower, a figure in black with a proud and awe-inspiring aura was sitting cross-legged. Suddenly, a pair of eagle eyes opened, full of vigor. His whole body contained strong power and explosive power. It was the Blood Tower Master, Shue's son, the only Heaven Glimpse expert of the Blood Tower, an ace assassin. "The source of light?" Shue's murmured. "It seems that someone is evaluating the ace assassin level." Shue's showed a gratified expression. For him, the stronger the Blood Tower was, the better. As the mainstay of the Blood Tower, the ace assassins were important, but he hoped that there would be someone who could reach the Heaven Glimpse realm like him. An ace assassin in the Nirvana Blood Palace. "Sir Lin, you don't have a record of completing the task, so you can only be evaluated as an elite assassin first." The Iceberg Beauty said carefully. "Can't I be evaluated as an ace assassin directly?" Lin Feng frowned. "There is." The Iceberg Beauty hesitated. "Say it," Lin Feng said. The Iceberg Beauty pursed her cherry lips lightly. "It needs to be reported to the Blood Tower Master, and he'll decide it himself." Lin Feng asked, "How long?" "This." The Iceberg Beauty hesitated. "If the Blood Tower Master is not in seclusion, it will be very quick. But if he is not in the Blood Fog Land or in seclusion, I will need you to wait for a while." Lin Feng sighed. In other words, he didn't know how long he would have to wait. "Is there any other way?" Lin Feng asked. "There's another type." The Iceberg Beauty said. "The Blood Tower Master once announced that as long as one can challenge 3 powerhouses of the same level with his own strength, he can advance if he wins. However, it is usually used for ordinary assassins to advance to elite assassins. Moreover, they are free to choose their opponents. Right now, there are not many ace assassins in the Blood Fog Land." Lin Feng nodded. What he meant now was that he needed to challenge 3 ace killers, and he didn't have any opponents to choose. There was a huge difference. Of course, he would choose the weaker one, but there was no way he would choose the opponent who was very strong. Among the same ace assassins, some were at the 9th level of the 10,000 life stage, while some were at the 1st level of the 10,000 life stage. Then it's decided. Lin Feng didn't hesitate. His straightforwardness and confidence made all the assassins in the Black Blood Palace gasp. 1 against 3, and he didn't even choose his opponents. Was he arrogant, or was he really confident? The Blood Fog Land became lively. A newcomer who was recognized by the Origin Energy was evaluated as an ace assassin in the most difficult way. 1 against 3. This news instantly spread throughout the 3 Mother Towers. Many assassins gathered in the Black Blood Palace with curiosity, wanting to see the real face of the newcomer Lin Feng. Ace Assassin He Lin, 6th level of the 10,000 life stage. Ace Assassin Qi Shangyun, 8th level of the 10,000 life stage. Ace Assassin Shi Qian, 4th level of the 10,000 life stage. The Iceberg Beauty introduced them one by one. Lin Feng greeted the 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman. Among them, the most powerful one was the scholarly man Qi Xian, who was standing in the middle. His strength was at the 8th level of the 10,000 life stage. Lin, who was on his left, had a poker face that concealed a sword aura. He was also not an ordinary person. "Brother Lin, why don't you wait for a while longer? Qitong will be back soon." Qi Xingyun smiled elegantly. The iceberg beauty said to Lin Feng softly, "Ace Assassin Qitong, 2nd level of the 10,000 life stage." Lin Feng nodded. Qi Xingyun meant well. If Qitong fought in his place, the pressure on him would undoubtedly be reduced a lot. The combat power of the same 3 people might be several times weaker. "No need, Brother Qi, let's start." Lin Feng strode into the arena. To him, it didn't make much difference who his opponent was during the 10,000 life stage. The scholarly man, Qi Shengyun, had a deep look in his eyes. Although his expression did not change, there was a hint of anger in his eyes. Everyone, including Lin and Shi Qian, could feel Lin Feng's confidence. However, at the same time, he was looking down on them. "Let's go in." Qi Shengyun smiled at Lin and Shi Qian, but behind the smile was a monstrous battle intent. Lin's sword intent had already emerged. Shi Qian was like a poisonous scorpion with dark green poisonous stingers. 1 against 3. The 3 assassins were all experienced on the battlefield. They were stronger than the 10,000 life stage experts of the same level. The newcomer Lin Feng's confidence and aggressiveness made the assassins outside the arena very curious. There was a lot of discussion. Lin Feng's origin was very mysterious. Is there such a powerful newcomer in the 33 continents? Impossible. It's too absurd to be recognized by the origin energy in the 33 continents. But he must be a newcomer. Not only have I never heard of his name, but it's also the first time I've seen him. He's so young. Everyone was confused. They were curious about Lin Feng's origin. Indeed, because Lin Feng had entered from the Blood Tower's passageway, it was even more puzzling. However, everyone quickly stopped discussing. At this time, the origin energy in the arena had already erupted. Powerful auras appeared like the sky, intimidating everyone. Although they couldn't go in to see what was going on, just the outside was enough to make their hearts beat faster. A battle between true experts. Everyone held their breaths and looked forward to the outcome of this fierce battle. They closed their eyes and felt the fierce battle in the arena with their hearts, clenching their fists. But suddenly, the battle aura fluctuation stopped. In less than 10 seconds, it was as if the battle had ended before it had even begun. It can't be right. Everyone's eyes widened, and they revealed stunned smiles. They thought that Lin Feng was very strong to be so confident and domineering. They didn't expect that he was just talking empty words. 1 against 3, it was over in 10 seconds. Everyone laughed and shook their heads. They sneered and whispered. At this time, the door to the arena slowly opened. Everyone looked over and instantly widened their eyes. Lin Feng, behind him, Qi Xingyun and the other 2 had already fainted. Chapter 10:21. Are there any other steps? Lin Feng looked at the ice beauty. No need. The ice beauty replied in a daze. She was still in a daze and didn't know what had happened. What happened in such a short time was too incredible. Not to mention others. Qi Xingyun was ranked 4th among the Blood Tower's ace assassins. His strength was tyrannical. But Lin, and Shi Qian couldn't even last 10 seconds? What a joke. Can you give it to me now? Lin Feng reached out his hand. What? The ice beauty was stunned. Lin Feng laughed. The ace assassin token. Oh yes, sorry Sir Lin. The ice beauty's face turned red. She hurriedly took out the ace assassin token and respectfully handed it over with both hands, not daring to be disrespectful. A pair of beautiful starry eyes secretly glanced at Lin Feng, and her heart beat fast. Sorry for the trouble. Lin Feng put away the ace assassin token. With a smile, he swept his gaze across the stunned faces in the surroundings. He nodded his head in acknowledgement and left. The Blood Tower's assassins looked at each other in shock. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, it would have been hard for them to believe this scene. They had witnessed the birth of a miracle with their own eyes. Lin Feng left the Blood Tower and went to the interdomain transfer array. In the Blood Tower, only the Ace Assassins with the Ace Assassin token could use it to enter and leave the 5th region at will. After showing the token, the elite assassin in charge of guarding the place was filled with respect. He skillfully and quickly operated the inter-domain transfer array. It was time to leave. Lin Feng let out a sigh of relief. He looked around at the familiar surroundings, and his eyes lit up. The golden dragon soared into the sky, and the power of the Heaven Glimpse soul covered the entire Blood Tower. The tyrannical power was released and instantly caused a collision. Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile, and his eyes flashed. He stepped onto the inter-domain transfer array and looked at the stunned elite assassin. Started. Yes, sir. The elite assassin replied. You want to go? The Miracle Garden, Lin Feng said. Mother Blood Tower. Shua. A figure descended from the sky amidst the bloody shadows. Filled with an awe-inspiring loftiness and a dense battle intent, his hawk-like eyes seemed to be able to see through everything in the world. With a loud rumble, his figure flashed as he practically instantly arrived at the inter-domain teleportation array. This was the last place where he sensed the power of a Heaven Glimpse expert. Greetings, Blood Tower Master. The elite assassin in charge of guarding the place knelt down on one knee. The newcomer was the only ace killer of the Shiwalo cult, the most powerful one. Blood Forest. Where is he? Shuesen's eyes lit up. The elite assassin was stunned for a moment before he reacted. He just left. Shuesen clenched his fists and frowned. Where did he go? Miracle Garden. The elite assassin honestly said. Snap. Shuesen clenched his fists even tighter and looked disappointed. Just now, he sensed an aura that was not inferior to his. It was unprecedented and unheard of. The tyrannical power of Heaven Glimpse appeared in Xuelu, which made him surprised and happy. He immediately rushed over without caring about anything, but he was still a step too late. Who is it? Shuesen asked. No, I don't know him. The elite killer lowered his head. Don't know him? Shuesen was stunned. Blood Tower Master, I just received news that the Nirvana Blood Hall has a new ace killer, and it is very likely to be this man. The elite killer said. Swish. Shuesen disappeared instantly. Lin Feng did it deliberately. Since he came to Xuelu, there was no reason not to greet the Blood Tower Master. You should be looking for me everywhere now. Lin Feng stepped into Miracle Garden. This paradise of human beings was formed by the first domain, the second domain, and the third domain. He was going to the Glory Sanctuary, the territory of the Glory Alliance in Miracle Garden. He didn't plan to stay in Xuelu for long. In the 5th domain, Xuelu might have a little reputation, but in the whole Nirvana world, it was not worth mentioning. If he joined Xuelu, their fates would be implicated. Xuelu would be dragged down by him, and he didn't want to carry Xuelu's burden. At least for now, it was not suitable. If there's a chance, we will meet. Lin Feng smiled. Now is not the best time to meet Blood Tower Master Xue Sr. Nirvana Blood Hall. Newcomer. Lin Feng. Shuesen was also shocked. At this time, Qi Xingyun and the other two who woke up were embarrassed. They were ace assassins, but they were defeated 3 against 1. It was embarrassing. But when they thought of the fight with Lin Feng and the terrifying strength of the ordinary-looking young man, they could only sigh. Too strong. They didn't lose unjustly. He is very powerful. Shi Qian sighed. His saber completely suppressed my sword. He Lin said, the strength gap is very big. I'm afraid that his strength is not 100%. Qi Xingyun looked at Shuesen and said seriously, in my opinion, his real battle strength is very likely to be comparable to yours. Yes. Shuesen nodded. He trusted Qi Xingyun's judgment. Besides, the power that Lin Feng released when he left was obviously a greeting to him, which meant that his sensing ability was better than his. Do you want to find him? Qi Xingyun asked. No. Shuesen said. If his heart belongs to Xuelu, he will come back. Maybe he has already joined Miracle Garden. He Lin said. He won't. Shuesen's eagle eyes were bright. If he wants to join Miracle Garden, he won't come for the Ace Assassin token. He has more things to do. Pass down the order, everything about the new Ace Assassin Lin Feng is to be blocked. Don't mention it. Yes, Master Xuelu, the assassins responded. Qi Shengyun sighed. If Xuelu can have such a talented person, we will definitely stand at the top of the 5th region. Xuesen nodded. Such a talent can only be found by chance. At this time, Lin Feng was entering the Glory Sanctuary. The headquarters of the Glory Alliance was second only to Miracle Garden among the human forces in Nirvana world. It was a transcendent existence on par with Luotian Alliance. Unlike Xuelu, who only had one Heaven Glimpse expert, the Glory Alliance had many Heaven Glimpse experts who were called warlords. There were 21 warlords in the entire Glory Alliance. Lin Feng had seen 3 of them before: Li Lang, Madame Parrot, and young Master Jianyu. Above the warlord level were the great warlords. Even in the Nirvana world, life-breaking experts were extremely rare. They were peak existences, the 4 kings of the Glory Alliance. Fan Star Diamond. A general took the Fan Star Diamond that Lin Feng handed over. It was like a crystal filled with stars, making him feel suffocated. This was the keepsake of King Fan Star, one of the 4 kings. Seeing it was like seeing a person. He could enjoy a special status in the Glory Alliance without any restrictions. On that day, Lin Feng took the Fan Star Diamond and was able to buy 30 million battle achievements on credit. Yes, Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Please inform them that I want to see King Fan Star. To be continued. Chapter 10:22. In the Fan Star Realm. Lin Feng. A smile appeared on Fan Xing's handsome face as he toyed with the Fan Xing diamond in his hand. His memory of Lin Feng was still fresh. He had participated in the Path of Glory qualifiers as an ace soldier. Not only had he advanced to the qualifiers, but he had also overcome all obstacles to become the champion. He had created an incredible history. His second bloodline awakening had reached the ultimate limit, but it wasn't a mutation or a sub-perfect bloodline. He had rejected Li Lang, and the other 2s offered to be his disciple. Those were 3 warlord experts, transcendent existences at the Heaven Glimpse stage. In fact, when he jokingly suggested that he wanted to take in a disciple, Lin Feng was more surprised than happy. This made Lin Feng want to cherish talent. Not only did he help him settle the grudge with the Southern Prison's AO clan, but he also gave him the Starry Fan Diamond in order to win over talent. As one of the 4 kings, Lord Fan Xing knew very well how to recruit a real genius. He was moved by emotion. He must have made a decision to come to me. Lord Fan Xing knew Lin Feng very well. Whether he joined the Glory Alliance or not, Lin Feng would give him an answer. He wasn't an ungrateful person. In his opinion, the probability of Lin Feng joining the Glory Alliance was about 50%. With his potential, it won't be a problem for him to cross the Grand Nirvana Plane. In time, the Glory Alliance will have another warlord. Lord Fan Xing was looking forward to it. Lin Feng waited in the Fan Star Realm. He had indeed made a decision. Lord Fan Xing had treated him well in the Glory Alliance, so he should return the favor, especially when he had overdrawn 30 million military credits when he left. These credits had helped Earth survive the extinction smoothly. With self-cultivation, he wouldn't do something against his will. Swish! A luxuriously dressed figure appeared in front of him. The starry sky was dazzling. That handsome face belonged to Lord Fan Xing, but at this time, he looked more shocked than surprised. He stepped forward and said in disbelief, "Heaven Glimpse, Overlord." Lord Fan Xing. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Lin Feng nodded. He wasn't surprised that Lord Fan Xing had seen through his strength. After all, he was a life-breaking overlord. Besides, this was what he wanted. It really is the Heaven Glimpse stage. King Fan Xing sighed. In the short span of 2 years, not only had Lin Feng crossed the Grand Nirvana realm, he had even reached the Heaven Glimpse stage. King Fan Xing couldn't help but gasp in amazement at the speed at which Lin Feng's strength was improving. However, when he recalled the miracle that Lin Feng had created 2 years ago, King Fan Xing immediately understood. This was a super genius that couldn't be judged by common sense. It was precisely because of this that he had condescended to recruit Lin Feng. King Fan Xing's eyes sparkled as he said, "It's true that a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. Brother Lin, you've really surprised me." From Lin Feng to Brother Lin. This was a simple change in address, but it was enough to explain the fluctuations in Fan Xingqing's heart. At this moment, his attitude towards Lin Feng was even more urgent than it had been 2 years ago. Although he didn't reveal much emotion on his face, his heart was already burning with passion. Warlord experts? No, Lin Feng's future is very likely to be a warlord, the 5th king of the Glory Alliance. You're exaggerating, King Fan Xing, Lin Feng smiled. I'm indebted to King Fan Xing for thinking so highly of me. Lin Feng is here to thank you. 30 million battle credits is like charcoal in snowy weather. I'll never forget it. Brother Lin, you're too polite. These are just worldly possessions. King Fan Xing smiled. I'm really happy to see such a genius in the Glory Alliance. In just 2 years, our Glory Alliance has 2 more Heaven Glimpse stage warlords. This is a great fortune. King Fan Xing's words were secretly probing as he observed Lin Feng's expression. However, Lin Feng was still the same. He neither denied nor admitted it, which made King Fan Xing a little anxious. In his opinion, Lin Feng's talent was even stronger than Li Poji's, who had become a warlord in a year and a half. Such a talent couldn't be missed. Brother Lin, what do you plan to do next? King Fan Xing asked again. I plan to leave after meeting King Fan Xing, Lin Feng replied. What? King Fan Xing's expression changed. Brother Lin, are you planning to join the Miracle Garden? Lin Feng smiled. King Fan Xing said, it's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. The Miracle Garden is still in the hands of the 5 clans. Brother Lin, don't get involved. If you stay in the Glory Alliance, you'll have great power when you enter the life-breaking stage and become one of the 5 kings. Why not? Oh, Lin Feng was slightly surprised. Seeing that Lin Feng didn't refuse, King Fan Xing continued. The decision of the Glory Alliance's soldiers is usually made in the Nirvana stage and the 10,000 life stage. Brother Lin's situation is a little special. Let me think. After pondering for a while, King Fan Xing said, how about this? I'll tell you the normal rewards. See if you're satisfied. Let's take the Grand Nirvana stage as an example. The first reward is 10 million battle credits. Now that Brother Lin is a warlord, you'll be rewarded with 100 million battle credits. Lin Feng nodded. 100 million battle credits. After deducting 30 million, he still had 70 million battle credits, which was quite good. A heaven-grade perfect holy treasure was 100,000 to 1 million battle credits. 100 million battle credits was enough to buy the best heaven-grade, mid-grade holy treasure and ordinary heaven-grade, high-grade holy treasures. The second reward is a treasure. Military commanders will be bestowed with a special class military medal and be given access to the 6th level of the Glory Treasury. There, they will be able to pick a super heaven-class low-grade holy treasure. Brother Lin, you should enter the 7th level of the Glory Treasury and pick a super heaven-class mid-grade holy treasure. King Fan Xing had been paying attention to Lin Feng's expression as he spoke. He thought that Lin Feng would be happy, but he didn't show any emotion at all. It was as if he didn't care about the heaven-grade, mid-grade holy treasure at all. King Fan Xing's heart turned cold. He gritted his teeth and said, on the 8th floor, choose a heaven-grade, high-grade holy treasure. Huh? Lin Feng was slightly surprised and looked at King Fan Xing. The latter smiled and said, battle credits are easy to get, but treasures are hard to find. No matter if Brother Lin joins the Miracle Garden or the Luotian Alliance, they won't give you a heaven-grade, high-grade holy treasure, but our Glory Alliance can. Thank you. Lin Feng smiled slightly. King Fan Xing secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At this time, he was a little more confident. Brother Lin, you can name the 3rd reward yourself. As long as it is reasonable and the Glory Alliance can afford it, we will basically satisfy you. Of course, because Brother Lin is already a Heaven Glimpse expert, you can enjoy the power and status of a warlord. Lin Feng nodded. King Fan Astar's heartbeat quickened as he muttered to himself. It had been a long time since he had felt so nervous. However, recruiting Lin Feng was indeed an extremely important matter for the Glory Alliance. His talent and potential were simply too astonishing. As long as Lin Feng agreed and named the third reward, then him joining the Glory Alliance was a done deal. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time passed little by little. Lin Feng still didn't answer, which made King Fanxing anxious. Suddenly, King Fanxing, Lin Feng smiled apologetically. Chapter 10:23. Sorry. King Fanxing's eyes widened. I can't think of anything I need right now. Can I keep the third reward for now? Lin Feng asked. King Fanxing was overjoyed. Of course. You can bring it up whenever you want. Lin Feng's answer meant that he agreed to the reward and was willing to join the Glory Alliance. King Fanxing heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing this. Lin Feng was the future of the Glory Alliance. It was worth it to pay any price. So, Brother Lin, you're not leaving, right? King Fanxing asked. Lin Feng was surprised. I'm leaving. Huh? King Fanxing was stunned. Brother Lin, aren't you planning to join the Glory Alliance? Lin Feng chuckled. You're mistaken, King Fanxing. I've never thought of leaving the Glory Alliance. I just came out of seclusion, so I'm planning to return to the Glory Alliance of Seven. He didn't plan to stay in the Glory Sanctuary or the Miracle Garden. I see. King Fanxing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was overthinking things. Still, he was happy to know that Lin Feng was willing to stay in the Glory Alliance. It's not a bad idea to return to the Glory Alliance of Seven. The demon race is rioting, and the Glory Alliance of Seven needs a powerhouse. Lin Feng, what position do you plan to take? What position do I have? Lin Feng asked. There are 3 types of warlords, King Fanxing said. Fanxing said, the first type is relatively free. We call them free warlords. Including you, there are 9 free warlords. They roam the 6 great forbidden lands and focus on cultivation. The second type is stationed in the Miracle Garden's Glory Sanctuary. We call them Glory Warlords. They're in charge of the Glory Alliance's affairs. They have more power and more resources. The third type is in charge of the Glory Alliance. We call them Domain Warlords. For example, the 4th Warlord isn't ranked 4th in strength. He controls the Glory Alliance of 4. We currently have the 4th, 5th, 8th, and 11th Warlords. Lin Feng nodded. Free Warlords, Glory Warlords, and Domain Warlords. To him, the Glorious Warlord could be eliminated first. Although he held a high position, he had lost his conscience. He was not suitable for someone who only enjoyed resources but lacked experience. Both Free Warlords and Domain Warlords were not bad. Comparatively, they were more free and casual. He was more inclined to become a free warlord. After all, it was freer and more suitable for training. Next, I might be planning to enter the 6 great forbidden lands, Lin Feng said. Fanxing smiled as if he knew what Lin Feng was going to say. Actually, a domain warlord is not much different from a free domain warlord. Take the retired emperor, for example. The Glory Alliance's affairs are usually handled by the Ace Army Commander. At most, the Ace Army Commander will be the one to make the decision. Basically, the warlord will not be troubled. Lin Feng nodded. Indeed, the affairs of the Glory Seven were mostly handled by He Jin, Wei Xinyuan, and Yuan Shuang. The White Ram Army Lord, Yiwu Junju, and Yinho Junju rarely showed themselves. So King Fanxing wants me to become the 7th warlord? Lin Feng asked. Yes. Fanxing didn't deny it. With the appearance of the Fiend Star, the current situation is very unstable. Lin Feng, it can't be better for the Glory Seven. If you are willing to become the 7th warlord, I will personally give you 100 million war credits as a reward. Lin Feng's eyes glittered. 500 million. Fanxing was stunned. He smiled bitterly. How do you know I'm in charge of the Glory Seven? I guessed. Lin Feng smiled. Fanxing said helplessly, 500 million war credits is too much. I can give you 300 million war credits at most. Okay, Lin Feng said, help me erase the 30 million war credits I owe you. Deal. Fanxing smiled bitterly. 400 million war credits, a super heaven high-grade sacred treasure, and a request. Lin Feng officially joined the Glory Alliance. He didn't intend to join a Miracle Garden in the first place. He still had a grudge with the AO family of Southern Prison. Plus, the 5 clans of Tion Mo were likely the culprits of the Great Extinction. It was too dangerous for him to be alone in the enemy's camp. Staying in the Glory Alliance was different. It was much more free and comfortable. Moreover, the Glory Alliance was not weak. It was a win-win situation. It was quite good to become the 7th warlord and be in charge of the Glory 7. He also had a certain degree of affection for the Glory 7. However, he didn't go back immediately. After leaving the Fanxing realm, Lin Feng went straight to the Thousand-Knife Pavilion to observe the knife wall. Comprehending the knife. The 4th move of the Thousand-Knife art, the invincible knife. Lin Feng observed quietly. Because of the lack of the knife technique realm, he had been unable to fully express all the artistic conception of the invincible knife in his mind. Now was the best state of comprehension. He had the strength and the realm, and only needed. It was a natural transformation. The Glory 7. It's over. The good days have come to an end. Iwu Junju held a black feather fan with a mournful look on his face. Yin Zhan, do you know the background of the 7th warlord? The White Ram army leader asked. Of the 3 great generals of the Glory 7, Marshal Yin Zhan was the most experienced of them all. She was dressed in plain white robes, and her hair was tied up in a bun. Marshal Yin Zhan shook her head lightly. I'm not sure. Just like you, I've just received King Fanxing's letter of appointment. The White Ram army leader frowned. There was no news at all before. Iwu Junju shook his head. It's the scariest to be airborne. With someone at the top, we won't have so much freedom in the future. Yinho Junju laughed. The warlords in the territory won't eat people. In fact, it's a good thing for us. Even if the sky falls, there will be a tall man to hold it up. With the warlord experts in charge, the Glory 7 will be much more stable. We won't have to be afraid of the monster race and demon race anymore. That's true. Iwu Junju thought about it and was suddenly enlightened. I'm most afraid of a warlord with a strong desire to control. The White Ram army leader was inevitably worried. I don't think so, Yinho Junju said softly. Even so, she was not confident in her heart. The 3 of them waited patiently in the Glory territory, preparing to welcome the arrival of the 7th warlord. As for the other ace commanders like He Jin and Wei Xinyuan, as well as the Light Man and Goddess Wakaman, they were not qualified to meet the 7th warlord. Time passed by, second by second. The 3 army leaders who were usually high and mighty were a little nervous. Their palms were sweating. The weather was not hot, but their hearts were boiling. They looked around with anticipation. This kind of unknown and mysterious was the most disturbing. Suddenly, a white light appeared. The 3 of their eyes lit up and looked straight ahead. A figure appeared in the interdomain transfer portal. The 3 of them immediately bowed respectfully. Yinho, Baijie, and Iwu greet the 7th warlord. There's no need for formalities. A calm voice suddenly sounded. Yinho Junju and the other 2 were stunned. They felt that the voice was familiar, as if they had heard it somewhere before. They could not help but raise their heads and look at the person who came. Instantly, their eyes widened. Lin Feng, Chapter 1024. This will be Lord Warlord's territory in the future, Yinho Junju said. Lin Feng nodded and looked around. This was a newly opened territory. It was located between the Glory territory and the Ace territory. There were small bridges and flowing water. The layout was fresh and natural. It was very suitable. Iwu Junju and the White Ram Army's leader followed behind him. They were a bit cautious, especially the White Ram Army's leader. He wanted to accept Lin Feng as his disciple, but now, Lin Feng jumped on top of him all of a sudden. Until now, the White Ram Army's leader was still confused. He found it hard to believe that this was real. 2 years. He had seen Lin Feng's strength increase, but even when he obtained the Champion of the Road of Glory's qualification battle, Lin Feng was only at the Nirvana stage. How could he possibly cross over the great Nirvana stage in 2 years and raise his strength to the Heaven Glimpse stage? Is Lord satisfied? Yinho Junju said gently. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. He wasn't that picky about where he lived. He just wanted it to be quiet and comfortable. That's good. Yinho Junju smiled. Iwu Junju and the White Ram Army's leader breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid that Lin Feng would be picky, but now it seemed that Lin Feng was very approachable. He didn't become arrogant and bossy just because he became a warlord. Does Lord have any other requests? Yinho Junju asked again. No need, you guys go do your own things. I will find you guys if I need anything. Lin Feng smiled. Yes, Lord. Yinho Junju and the other two left. Lin Feng was left alone. His state of mind gradually calmed down. Returning from Earth to planet Nemo was a smooth transition. There would be a short period of peace, but the burden on his shoulders didn't lessen at all. The descent of the Demon Star, the extinction of the Tian Mo5 races, and now the ancient treasure of Emperor Minwu. The path to the cosmic system state was long and arduous. I've comprehended the 4 ultimate of the 1,000 knife art. My physical fitness is even better than that of life-breaking stage experts. In addition, I've reached the 3rd level in the Origin Star realm and awakened my bloodline for the 3rd time. Only my attainments in the Tao of Origin and my strength are inferior. My current combat strength is invincible among Heaven Glimpse experts. However, against life-breaking experts, it's still a bit troublesome. My future path of cultivation will focus on the Tao of Origin. Lin Feng was very clear. His goal was simple and direct, to become the strongest person on the Nemo planet. 2 years. Lin Feng had left Glory's Alliance 7 for 2 whole years and had changed quite a bit. First, the Glory team was reduced from 2 to 1. The leader of the original 2nd Glory team, Ing Jian, had broken through to the Nirvana stage. He did not stay in the Glory Alliance, but chose to leave. The 1st Glory team was already split up. First, Goddess Wakaman was taken in as a disciple by Yinho Junju and left. Then, Lightman was taken in as a disciple by the White Ram military lord and left. Only Vice Leader Meng Meng and the newly promoted Yi Shuheng were left. Then, they merged into the 2nd Glory team and joined Qin Tiansheng and Ao Lai. Then, the Chaos Team's strength entered an explosive period. In 2 years, Shi Manzi, Yi Xia, Wu Daozi, and Fire Melting were all promoted to Glory members, along with the newly recruited Wu Zong. The mixed team was directly promoted to a Glory team. From weak to slowly rising, they gradually surpassed the 1st Glory team. The current Chaos Team was very famous. Chueshue still can't become a Glory team member? Lin Feng asked. Yes, Sister Chueshue's talent is not that good. Although Lin Feng left behind the battle merits, the bottleneck is starting to appear, Shimanzi said softly. After 2 years, she had become even more beautiful. She had lost some of her charm and gained some of her inner charm. Her temperament was threatening. The current Shimanzi was not inferior to Goddess Wakaman at all. Lin Feng nodded. Among the people who had entered the Nirvana world together, Chueshue's talent was indeed the worst. Even Fire Melting, who had been demoted to the elite army, had climbed up bit by bit with his own efforts. From the elite army to the ace army, then to the Glory team, Chueshue's talent had always been lukewarm. When he left 2 years ago, he left a portion of his battle merits to the Chaos team. Manzi did not let him down and used these battle merits reasonably. How about this? I'll arrange for her to enter the path of glory. I believe that her strength should have a breakthrough in a short time, Lin Feng said. You can arrange for the path of glory? Yi Xiao was shocked. Of course. Lin Feng smiled. Did you forget that I have half a year to enter the path of glory? Intermediate and advanced paths of glory are 3 months each. With his current strength, he no longer needed to enter the path of glory. Arranging for the path of glory was easy. Warlords had special privileges in the Glory Alliance. Almost forgot. Captain, you were the champion of the ranking competition. Wu Daozi laughed. Lin Feng smiled. The title of captain was very nostalgic. Have you participated in the path of glory qualification battle? Lin Feng asked. Of course. Yi Xia said excitedly. It's so fun. But we only participated once last year. Sister Manzi participated twice. Last year, she even entered the ranking competition. Lin Feng looked at Manzi and gave her a thumbs up. I only got 7th place. She Manzi smiled charmingly. That's already not bad. Vice Captain, Wu Daozi shouted. I didn't even pass the first round of the competition. Aren't I worse? I didn't even get the qualification for the competition. Yi Xia's mouth twitched. Everyone couldn't help but laugh. After not seeing each other for a long time, their friendship was still there. Lin Feng looked at Manzi and could feel the gentleness in her eyes. It was hard to accept a beauty's grace. From the 33 continents to the Nirvana world, it would be a lie to say that there were no feelings. She had always been silently giving and waiting for him. She was really smart. This was also why her talent was not better than Wu Daozi and Yi Xia, but her strength was higher than them. Let nature take its course, Lin Feng said softly in his heart. If he had power, he would naturally use it. Lin Feng had never been an old-fashioned person who followed the rules. Soon, he arranged for snow blowing and fire melting to enter the intermediate path of glory. Shi Manzi, Yi Xia, and Wu Daozi entered the advanced path of glory. He was now the 7th warlord, so it was naturally easy. With Manzi, Yi Xia, and Wu Daozi's talent, he believed that it wouldn't be long before they became Nirvana realm experts. Snow blowing and fire melting were relatively slower. After coming out of the intermediate path of glory, they still needed to temper themselves for a while. With enough resources, crossing the Grand Nirvana realm won't be a problem. As for whether they can become a general, warlord, or great warlord, it will depend on their own luck. Lin Feng arranged everything properly and began to cultivate in seclusion. Although there was a super heaven rank high-grade holy treasure, he was not in a hurry. For now, he should focus on cultivation and comprehension. Origin energy, the second form of power. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. Chapter 10:25. The origin source energy was the true energy of the universe. It started to appear in the super weak and started to release its power at the nebula level. It was divided into the heart of origin and the path of origin. The path of origin was the comprehension of the origin source energy. It was an internal manifestation of the heart. The heart of origin was the root of the origin source energy and the origin of power. The existence of the heart of origin depended on the origin star boundary. The stronger the origin star boundary was, the larger the heart of origin it could contain. There was a huge difference between the initial one-fold heart of origin, the 10-fold heart of origin, and the 100-fold heart of origin. The stronger the heart of origin, the more origin source energy in the body, the stronger the senses, the better the control, and the greater the power. The heart of origin would affect the path of origin, just like how the path of origin would affect the heart of origin. The two were inseparable. To reach the second level of the path of origin, comprehension is the key. The true understanding of the path of origin and the ability to sense. Of course, the size of the heart of origin is also the most important. Lin Feng focused his mind and immersed himself. The level of the path of origin was to enter the origin ocean to comprehend it. Hence, the size of the heart of origin was very important. A one-fold heart of origin was equivalent to a one-fold sensing range. A 100-fold heart of origin was equivalent to a 100-fold sensing range. There was already a 100-fold difference here. Aptitude was also very important. For the same speed of light Tao, a martial artist with strong aptitude will be able to comprehend a lot in an hour. A martial artist with poor aptitude might not be able to comprehend much in a year. Many martial artists choose to comprehend through battle, and some choose to comprehend the intent of origin. Lin Feng did not intend to take these two shortcuts. Sometimes, shortcuts were not necessarily fast. Such comprehension required a little luck and epiphany. However, he did not need to do that at all. With the third-level origin star boundary and the 400-fold heart of light, normal cultivation and comprehension are also very fast. Lin Feng entered the light origin ocean. The abundant light origin merged with his body. Lin Feng bathed in the light origin ocean and instantly entered a cultivation state. Whoosh, whoosh, Lin Feng's divine runes appeared, and the new light and darkness body was activated. This could help him sense the true essence of the light origin. The whirlpool light body from the second bloodline awakening was already very good. He could sense the origin sea with just the divine patterns. Now, it was 10 times better than before. When a book is read 100 times, its meaning will be revealed. It was the same for the comprehension of the light origin essence. It was like a long path of cultivation. With each comprehension and immersion, one's understanding and control of the light origin essence would increase. With a light core that was 400 times stronger, coupled with the powerful light and darkness body, Lin Feng soon reaped some benefits. So this is the Tao of Halos. Lin Feng didn't directly cultivate and comprehend the second level of the light source. Instead, he chose to comprehend a halo that had a similar aptitude to the light source. After the Tao of light, the Tao of light speed, the Tao of light, and the Tao of brilliant light, this was the fifth Tao of light that he had comprehended. Even though he didn't have the assistance of the perfect profound meaning, he could still comprehend it. Just like the great nirvana, the perfect profound meaning only played an auxiliary role in comprehending it, and it wasn't the true key. In fact, the perfect profound intent was also known as the fundamental origin profound intent. Pop, pop, pop. The light core rapidly expanded and rushed to 500 times. Lin Feng was very satisfied. Even if he didn't cultivate the Tao of Halos, the light core's improvement was also an all-around improvement. It was of great help to his comprehension of the second level of the Tao of light. Wantonly absorbing the light core and strengthening the light core, Lin Feng continued to comprehend. Of the six Tao of light, only one was left. The Tao of light. Lin Feng's heart was calm as he naturally comprehended. Even though his aptitudes in the Tao of light and Tao of brilliant light were relatively weaker, it didn't mean that they were really weak. Especially with the enhancement of the light and darkness body, even the weakest Tao of light and Tao of brilliant light were better than the Tao of light and Tao of light without the enhancement of the bloodline. Pop, pop, pop. The light core expanded as expected, but something's not right. Lin Feng's heart trembled. This time, the light core's expansion speed was much faster than before. The absorption of the light core was also several times more than before. It was as though he had suddenly changed from chewing slowly to wolfing down food. The most direct change to the light core was that it expanded greatly and increased in speed. What's going on? Lin Feng was surprised. 600 times, 700 times, 800 times. The expansion of the light core didn't stop. Normally, after comprehending all six Tao of light, the third-rank origin star world should have a light core of 600 times. But now it had completely exceeded that. Although Lin Feng was puzzled, he decided to take things as they came. While comprehending the light core, he kept a close eye on the light core's movements. Every day, the light core was increasing. It directly increased Lin Feng's cultivation speed. The time spent cultivating was like a white steed flashing across a crevice. Time flew by quickly. A single comprehension could take 10 days to half a month. Even though Lin Feng had excellent conditions, it wasn't easy to improve the light core from the first level to the second level. It was normal for ordinary rank 2 heaven glimpse experts from the origin star world to spend decades or even centuries. The expansion of the light core stopped and reached its limit. It was the limit that the third-rank origin star world could accommodate. The pure energy was filled with the true essence of light. The entire light core was completely different from before. It was as though it was saturated and perfect without any flaws. Thousandfold light core. It's not just the size that's increased. Lin Feng's senses were the clearest. The entire light core was like a perfect individual. Although it didn't change much in appearance, it had transformed internally. Similarly, when immersed in the light core's ocean, one's perception of light was completely different. The light core is complete. Lin Feng completely understood. The sixth Tao of light formed all of light. Therefore, after comprehending all six Tao of light, the light core would expand from 500 times to 1,000 times and enter a perfect state. Well, it's an unintentional move, Lin Feng said with a smile. His original intention was to improve the light core and speed up his comprehension of the second level of the light core. Perfect light core. Coupled with the light and darkness body, he was like a fish in water. His cultivation efficiency greatly increased. Lin Feng seemed to have found the key. He opened the doors of light and advanced faster and faster. Among the 6 Tao of light, his best aptitude was the light core and the divine core. Therefore, he chose the light core for his first comprehension of the second level. Compared to the divine core, Lin Feng preferred the light core. It was the most comprehensive and had the greatest increase in combat power. The divine core was very targeted. I'm here. While cultivating, Lin Feng instantly felt his heart leaping with joy. The light origin energy around him danced gracefully like fairies. Although it was only a part of it, it was enough. The comprehension of the light core entered his heart and entered a new extreme realm. In the light core, pure energy transformed. Light core, second level. Chapter 10:26. White Crane Glimmer. Lin Feng's figure was like a phantom. The speed of light formed the image of a white crane. Lin Feng moved around the small cultivation room. His speed, explosiveness, and control were perfect. The light source's control of the perfect, profound intent had reached perfection. It wasn't just 100%, it was 10% explosiveness. It was like holding a 1,000 kilograms blade and now holding a 100 kilograms blade. It didn't take much effort. White Crane Glimmer. It's the evolution of light speed. The second level of light speed has already reached fading light speed. It's time to cultivate the source profound intent. Lin Feng walked out of the cultivation room. After 3 months of cultivation, his harvest was not bad. Not only did he have the 1,000-fold light heart, but his light speed Tao had also reached the second layer. Just based on his current combat strength, he could sweep through heaven glimpse experts. He was only 1 step away from life-breaking stage experts. The source profound intent. With my position as the 7th warlord, I can read 99% of the profound intent manuals of the Glory Alliance. Lin Feng smiled. This was one of the reasons why he joined the Glory Alliance. After all, he gave up on becoming an inheritor and gained freedom. The price was to wander on his own. He couldn't obtain his teacher's cultivation experience or profound intent manuals. However, the Glory Alliance was enough to help him reach the cosmic system level. He entered the Glory Sacred Domain. Basically all experts above the general level cultivated here. Just the energy in the universe was much denser, and adding in the fact that they were all close in strength, they could help each other. In the entire Nirvana world, the safest place for human forces was the Miracle Garden. Just as he stepped out of the domain teleportation formation, Lin Feng saw a familiar face. A white robe with an aura that didn't fade away from the mortal world. Her aura was so refined that it was hard for people to blaspheme her. It was Goddess Wakamin, who he hadn't seen in a long time. Lin Feng? Goddess Wakamin's beautiful eyes lit up. Long time no see. Lin Feng walked over with a faint smile. Although they weren't friends, they were familiar with each other. Yes, it's been 2 years. Goddess Wakamin showed a faint smile. She was a person of few words, so she didn't have many friends in the Nirvana world. Not long after she joined the Glory team, she was accepted as a disciple by Yinho Junju. She spent most of her time cultivating alone. Lin Feng was one of the few friends who had left a deep impression on Goddess Wakamin. Or, it should be said that they were competitors. Goddess Wakamin had been nurtured since she was young, so she had always been in a high position. She looked down on everyone else and had a strong sense of self-esteem. After losing to Lin Feng last time, Goddess Wakamin had been working hard on her cultivation, hoping to catch up to Lin Feng. I've watched your ranking matches. Congratulations, Goddess Wakamin said softly. Thank you. Lin Feng smiled. By the way, where are you going? Master said that he wants to go to the Glory Sanctuary. The Goddess Wakamin opened her cherry lips and was about to speak. Suddenly, Ruoming. In the distance, a loud and urgent voice sounded. Lin Feng was slightly surprised and couldn't help but turn his head to look. He saw a handsome young man in blue armor rushing over, but he didn't come from the 7th region. He looked at Goddess Wakamin again. The latter frowned slightly and instantly returned to normal. Lin Feng saw this and understood a little. What a coincidence, Ruomung. I didn't expect to meet you here, the handsome young man said with a smile. Yes. Goddess Wakaman nodded slightly. Lin Feng smiled in his heart. It was indeed a coincidence that they ran all the way to the 7th region to meet. I heard from Father that you and Senior Yunjian are going to the God Ruins? The handsome young man said. Yes. Goddess Wakaman still only responded softly. Her polite answer didn't reveal any emotion. She was neither happy nor impatient. The God Ruins? Lin Feng couldn't help but be surprised. He looked at Goddess Wakaman. Yinho Junju is going to the God Ruins? Why haven't I heard her mention it? Before Goddess Wakaman could answer, the handsome young man glanced over warily as if he was looking at a love rival. Who are you? Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled slightly. Lin Feng? The handsome young man was stunned and suddenly understood. Oh, you're that Lin Feng who won the Path of Glory ranking competition. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. The handsome young man looked Lin Feng up and down with a faint smile. Don't think that you can be rude just because you won the ranking competition. You have to call her Senior Yunjian, understand? Oh. Lin Feng smiled. Goddess Wakaman said to Lin Feng, I heard from Master that something seems to have happened in the God Ruins recently. I'm not too sure about the details. Lin Feng nodded lightly. The 6 Forbidden Lands were extremely mysterious. As one of the 6 Forbidden Lands that belonged exclusively to humans, the God Ruins were naturally favored. Normally, Nirvana Realm experts could go there. Most of the 10,000 years old experts were in the Forbidden Lands. Lin Feng looked at Goddess Wakaman. Although she hadn't reached the Grand Nirvana Realm, with her talent and Yinho Junju's careful nurturing, her battle strength should have reached 10,000 years old in 2 years. Entering the God Ruins wouldn't be a problem. I know. The handsome young man was in high spirits. He said to Goddess Wakaman, My father has already told me about the God Ruins. Ruomung, join our team. There are no warlords in the 7th domain. With my father here, you won't be afraid of any danger. Goddess Wakaman shook her head. I have to ask Master. Looking at Lin Feng, Goddess Wakaman asked softly, Lin Feng, where are you going? Glory's Sanctuary, Lin Feng answered. He paused for a moment and then said, Or I might go to the God Ruins too. Goddess Wakaman's beautiful eyes twinkled. If you want to go, I can mention it to Master. We can go together and take care of each other. On the other side, the handsome young man's face was a little green. Goddess Wakaman had rejected his invitation, but she had invited Lin Feng to join her team. He, young Master Yulin, had never been ignored by a woman. He was extremely jealous. Ruomung, you're wrong. The handsome young man waved his hand and said seriously, The 6 most dangerous places are extremely dangerous. Nirvana Realm experts have to be especially careful when entering. The champion of the Road of Glory ranking competition is not worth mentioning. If you bring a burden in, you'll be killed. My father has brought me to the God Ruins many times. I'm very familiar with it. Listen to me. It's best for you and Master to join my father's team. Goddess Wakaman said, but we're not very familiar with Senior Guan. I'm here. The handsome young man patted his chest and said proudly, As long as I ask, my father will definitely agree. Looking at Lin Feng, the handsome young man smiled and said, As for you, Lin Feng, I can also help you ask my father. But you know that the number of people in the team is limited, so don't bother. Lin Feng smiled and said, I prefer to be alone. Oh. The handsome young man smiled contemptuously. His eyes suddenly lit up. Ruomung, it's Senior Yunzun. Lin Feng had already seen him. He nodded slightly at Senior Yunzun, who was coming from afar. Yinho Junju. Lin Feng greeted. Greetings, 7th Warlord. Yinho Junju bowed slightly. Chapter 10:27. The 7th Warlord. The handsome young man and Goddess Wakaman were both stunned. They looked around subconsciously, but there was no one else. No need to be so polite. Lin Feng smiled. Lord Warlord, have you received news about the God Ruins? Yinho Junju asked. I just heard it from Ruomung, but I don't know the details yet, Lin Feng said. Yinho Junju nodded. I heard that the human ancestor appeared to fight against the demon star. I don't know if it's true. Human ancestor? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. Great Emperor Minwu. Yinho Junju shook his head. I'm not sure. Lin Feng nodded. Generally, such news would be passed around, and the more it was passed around, the less accurate it would be. I'm going to the Glory Sanctuary. I'll ask King Fanxing on the way, Lin Feng said. The Glory Alliance 7 was under the jurisdiction of King Fanxing. As the seventh warlord, he was directly responsible to King Fanxing. King Fanxing's information should be much more accurate, Yinho Junju said. Well, I'll let you know if there's any news, Lin Feng said. Thank you, Lord, Yinho Junju said. Lin Feng nodded with a smile. His gaze fell on Goddess Wakaman, who was a little confused. I'll take my leave first, Roameng. After he finished speaking, Lin Feng smiled at the dazed handsome young man. Then his figure flashed and disappeared. Master Lin Feng, Goddess Wakaman said in surprise. Yinho Junju said softly, he's the new seventh warlord, directly appointed by King Fanxing. He's in charge of the entire Glory Alliance 7. He is a Heaven Glimpse expert? Goddess Wakaman's face was a little pale. Yinho Junju looked in the direction of Lin Feng's departure and said with admiration, he is the most talented martial artist I have ever seen. He can't be measured by the cultivation speed of ordinary martial artists. With a faint smile, Yinho Junju said to Goddess Wakaman, not everyone can catch up. Some people are destined to be high and mighty emperors, like King White Tiger, King Fanxing, and him, the seventh warlord. With his aptitude and talent, as long as he doesn't die, he will definitely become a great talent in the future. Goddess Wakaman pursed her lips tightly, and her fair skin was a little red. I understand. Let's go, Yinho Junju said. Yes, Goddess Wakaman replied. The two beautiful figures left behind a gust of fragrant wind. The handsome young man, Guan Yulin, was still in a daze, unable to calm down for a long time. The seventh warlord, Lin Feng, stepped into the Glory Sanctuary. Located in the Miracle Garden, humanity's main camp, the Glory Sanctuary was very famous in the Miracle Garden, being on par with the Luo Union. Other than the four kings, the Glory Warlords, and the Free Warlords, there were also many generals and talented Nirvana Realm experts. Guan Yulin was one of them because his father was the Free Warlord Guanzhong. Not only was there the complete Glory world here, including the 9 floors of the Glory Treasury, there was also the Source World, the Empyrean Terminus World, etc. The Glory Sanctuary was like an umbrella, projecting the Glory First Alliance, Second Alliance, Third Alliance, and Fourth Alliance. Experts gathered and had the best cultivation resources. The Glory Sanctuary was the holy land that every Glory Alliance expert wanted to enter, just like the Miracle Sanctuary in the Miracle Garden. 6 perilous lands, divine spirit ruins. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. His intuition told him that if it was really as Military Commander Yanzhan had said, it was very likely that Great Emperor Minwu had left behind something to deal with the demonic star. This was because the 3 ancient rare treasures that Great Emperor Minwu had obtained back then came from the divine spirit ruins. Moreover, the God Ruins itself was not simple. He had once entered the simulated God Ruins. The Nemo Planet warriors might not know, but he knew that there was a technological civilization there. There were many abandoned technological buildings, so it was called the God Ruins. He had always wanted to enter the 6 danger zones to take a look. However, he had planned to enter the Gate of Heaven's Wrath and the Death Knell Graveyard. Firstly, he had the clearest memory of Qi Yin. Secondly, his main purpose was to find the Demon Star. Besides the Black Devil Prison, these were the 2 places where the Demon Star was most likely to be. The other places, like the ancient Thousand Islands Sea, were the territories of the monster race. The God Ruins were the danger zones for humans. The Treasure Tower was mysterious and unreachable. As for the Black Devil Prison, like the Miracle Garden, it was the headquarters of the demon race. For the demon race, the Black Devil Prison was not one of the 6 danger zones, but the Miracle Garden. The danger of the Black Devil Prison was not how mysterious it was, but how extinct it was. Humans who entered it had no chance of survival. Fanxing Realm. He's not here. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. Yes, the 7th warlord, said Fan Xing's nominal disciple. Lu Xing, can you tell me where he went? Lin Feng asked. Lu Xing pondered for a moment. I don't know the details, but he should have met with the other 3 kings. Why don't you wait for a moment? Oh, Lin Feng was tempted. It seemed that the God Ruins incident was very real. Otherwise, Fan Xing wouldn't have made such a big deal out of it. Meeting with the other 3 kings was no small matter. I see. Thank you. Lin Feng nodded. Then I'll take my leave first. I'll visit you later. Okay, 7th Warlord, Lu Xing said respectfully. Lin Feng left for the time being. He still had something to do. He had entered the glory sacred realm for the quintessence mysteries, but he didn't expect to encounter this incident. He wasn't in a hurry. Anyway, even if he was going to the God Ruins, he still had to choose the quintessence mysteries and exchange it for a super heaven-grade holy treasure. To do a good job, one must first sharpen his tools. Interesting. The demon star descended, and people panicked. The God Ruins suddenly changed at this time. If it has nothing to do with the demon star, it's too much of coincidence. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. The origin world. It was somewhat similar to the quintessence world of every Glory Alliance, but it was unique in the Glory Sacred Realm. The origin world was clearly stratified. The origin world was based on the origin energy, and there were a total of 12 worlds. It was like a huge roulette clock with 12 kinds of origin energy as the scale. There was only one condition to enter the origin world, and that was to be a warlord or above. 7th Warlord, please come in, the warrior in charge of guarding said respectfully after verifying that there was no mistake. Lin Feng put away the warlord token that represented his identity and entered. The quintessence mysteries and the perfect mysteries were fundamentally different. The perfect mysteries represented the end point of the holy chi energy, the peak. It had already touched the tip of the origin energy, so the perfect mysteries were also called the basic quintessence mysteries. Comprehending the perfect mysteries will be recognized by the origin energy. The quintessence mysteries were built on the foundation of the origin energy. The power technique that used the origin energy as the foundation would naturally be above the perfect mysteries. In fact, the second level of the origin energy could really be called the starting point. The first level of the origin energy couldn't support the quintessence mysteries. It was just a seed that established the existence of the heart of origin. The quintessence mysteries, the power of the nebula level. Lin Feng entered the light origin world directly. Chapter 1028. Light origin world. Lin Feng walked through the long passage barrier, and his senses of light grew stronger and stronger. Although it was far from comparable to the origin sea, it was still considered rare on planet Nemo. It was an excellent place to cultivate the mysteries of light. Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he instantly entered a majestic palace with a crimson tower in the heavens. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't the only one in the palace. There was another figure in the sea of books, and he was slightly surprised to see Lin Feng. Their eyes met, and they nodded to each other. Those who could enter the origin world were all warlords, and there were only 22 of them in the entire Glory Alliance. If I'm not wrong, you should be the new 7th Warlord, Lin Feng. The man with thick eyebrows smiled. His hair was already a little white. Yes, Senior, are you the warlord of the distant border? Lin Feng asked. The man with thick eyebrows laughed. That's me. Lin Feng smiled. The warlord of the distant border used to be a free warlord, but he chose to return to the glory sacred realm after being injured and became a glory warlord. He was quite famous among the warlords and had trained many generals and warlords. He was now more than 6,700 years old, even older than senior brother Xin Yuan. Heroes indeed come from the young. I heard that the 7th Warlord not only surpassed the Grand Nirvana realm in 2 short years, but also reached the Heaven Glimpse stage. It's truly amazing. The Warlord of the distant borders' eyes shone. Senior, you're too kind, Lin Feng said humbly. First there was the Calamity Breaker Warlord, and now there's the 7th Warlord. Our Glory Alliance has many talents. The younger generation will surpass us in time, the Warlord of the distant border praised. The Calamity Breaker Warlord. Lin Feng had done his homework. The The 21st Warlord was a super genius from the 11th Alliance who won the ranking competition before him. He broke through to the Heaven Glimpse stage a year and a half ago and became a free warlord. Now that he was a member of the Glory Alliance, he was familiar with all the experts in the Glory Alliance. Not only the warlords, but also the generals. Is this the first time the 7th Warlord has entered the Origin world? The Warlord of the Distant Border asked. How? What did Senior know? Lin Feng asked. Warlord Yuan laughed heartily. It's only been a few months since King Fan Xing announced himself as the 7th Warlord. I've been studying the essence of origin in the Origin world all this time. Lin Feng smiled and said, Junior wants to choose a quintessence profundity. I wonder if Senior has any recommendations? The distant warlords had a wealth of experience and were familiar with the Origin world. This was his first time choosing an Origin intent, so there was no harm in listening to his senior's advice. Which path? The warlord asked. The speed of light, Lin Feng replied. The warlord smiled and said, I have some experience in the Tao of light speed. I once comprehended a 1-star profound meaning, moon shuttle incantation. I wonder if the 7th warlord is interested? Oh, Senior is willing to guide this junior? Lin Feng said happily. There was a huge difference between having a teacher and not having a teacher. While one's own comprehension was deep and unforgettable, having a teacher would save at least 50% to 60% of the time, and one would not go astray. Origin mysteries were normally treasured by everyone. Without a master and disciple relationship, how could they pass it on? Moreover, imparting skills was very time-consuming. I have nothing to do. It's just a small matter. The warlord revealed a gratified smile. To be able to watch you young talents grow and support the Glory Alliance is enough for me. Many thanks, Senior, Lin Feng said gratefully. The distant warlord had a sincere heart for the Glory Alliance. Moon Shuttle Incantation. Lin Feng took the milky yellow tome from the distant warlord and carefully looked through it. This was an origin intent that the ancestors of the Glory Alliance had comprehended and recorded. Later generations of Glory Alliance military clan experts had added their own insights, condensing a large amount of blood, sweat, and tears. Only the Glory Alliance and the Miracle Garden, these long-established powers, would have this kind of origin profound intent. Although this is only a 1-star profound meaning, it's not cheap. The distant warlord said seriously, although it's not an offensive, domain type, control type, or defensive type, it can save your life at a critical moment. In the past, it was because of the Moon Shuttle incantation that I was able to escape from the Curse-Shattering Demon. Curse-Shattering Demon, the strongest expert of the demon race, comparable to a human life-breaker expert. Lin Feng nodded in acknowledgement. The Moon Shuttle incantation was a support-type tome. To be precise, it was an origin intent for escaping. It could perfectly display the power of gradual light speed. The stronger the origin intent, the better it could be displayed. At its peak, it could be as beautiful as a bright moon. If he hadn't met Yinho Junju, he might not have chosen this profound meaning. But now that he was likely to go to the God Ruins, the Moon Shuttle incantation would be very useful. The 6 Forbidden Lands were full of danger. His current strength could barely squeeze into the Life-Breaker realm. Against a true Life-Breaker expert, the Curse-Shattering Demon, Wan Xie, and Wan Xie had no chance of winning. At this time, the importance of the Moon Shuttle incantation would be revealed. The distant warlord could use it to escape that day, which was enough to show its power. If he mastered the Moon Shuttle incantation, he would be able to advance and retreat. Go to the Lightspeed Profound Meaning world to comprehend it first. I'll come find you in 3 days, said the distant warlord. Okay, Senior. Lin Feng nodded. The lofty palace was a giant hexagonal structure. Each corner had a door that corresponded to the 6 paths of light. In the middle was a sea of books. Every profound meaning of light was an independent existence, placed in an exquisite manner. In reality, there weren't many profound meanings of light, and those who could comprehend and create their own profound meanings were too few. Even in the history of the Glory Union, they were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. In fact, most of the light origin intents here were created by those few geniuses. The later generations of experts mostly practiced and added their own comprehensions. Two were two-star profound meanings, while the rest were one-star profound meanings. The number of stars didn't just represent the difficulty of comprehension. It also represented the strength and power. A two-star profound meaning was naturally superior to a one-star profound meaning, but the requirements were also higher. To Lin Feng, his ultimate goal was naturally to learn those two-star profound meanings. But everything had to be done one step at a time. For now, he would first cultivate a one-star profound meaning. The moon shuttle incantation uses the moon to shuttle. The key lies in the body. Lin Feng knew the entire moon shuttle incantation by heart. He had even read the experiences of the previous generations of experts. The most difficult part wasn't the profound meaning itself, but the body. Some of the later generations of experts didn't have strong enough bodies and couldn't withstand the tearing of the gradual light speed incantation. Even more so, their bodies couldn't control the moon shuttle incantation and couldn't display its full power. The moon shuttle incantation caused the gradual light speed incantation to erupt from the inside out. If it's just an external increase in speed, it's like a blade art. It can't be integrated into the body. But there's also a limit to internal acceleration. The two complement each other, and the body can perfectly adapt to the gradual light speed incantation. Only then can the moon shuttle incantation's true power be displayed. Lin Feng's understanding was very thorough, but the actual cultivation was still not easy. One step at a time, he slowly practiced and comprehended. Chapter 1029. 3 days later. Hua, the distant warlord, arrived. He was never stingy when it came to teaching juniors, because he was clear that he had reached the limit of his strength, and it was impossible for him to reach the life-breaking realm. Therefore, he chose to become a Glory Alliance warlord and manage the Glory Alliance. In fact, most of the Glory Alliance warlords were the same. Seeing their limits, they chose to retire. Not everyone had the courage to go against the heavens, especially those who were close to their limits. For them, they already knew their fate. The Calamity-breaking warlord and the 7th warlord are both 4 years old. They're really young. The distant warlord revealed a look of envy. If he had this achievement at this age, he would be determined to break through to the life-breaking realm. Even if it's an expert with a half-perfect bloodline from the Miracle Garden who has been trained since they were young, they can't compare to this. The Demon Star's descent will bring an explosion of geniuses. The Miracle Garden is like this, and my Glory Alliance is like this. Although the future is unknown, but the distant warlord nodded in satisfaction. He believed that with the Calamity-breaking warlord and the 7th warlord, these two super geniuses, the Glory Alliance would be able to protect their glory. How far the Glory Alliance could go in the future would depend on the two of them. Oh, it was exactly what he was thinking. The eyes of the distant warlord instantly lit up. He saw Lin Feng in the distance rushing forward. Light gathered around him, forming a milky yellow shape that looked like a crescent moon. He's learned the first form? The distant warlord's heart was shocked. The moon shuttle art had 3 forms. It represented the control of cultivation and the body's limit. The first form is a milky yellow crescent moon, displaying the power of the first layer of light speed. The second form is a pale yellow crescent moon, displaying the limit of the body's limit. The third form is a golden crescent moon, displaying the perfect speed of light. Lin Feng remembered it very clearly. In fact, the third form only existed in legends. Even the ancestors of the Glory Alliance who created the moon shuttle art couldn't learn it, because their bodies couldn't withstand it. Although the second layer of light speed was called gradual light speed, it didn't mean that one could reach this speed. It was like a normal person in the ocean. You knew how deep the ocean was, but you couldn't reach the bottom of the ocean. This was because a normal person's body couldn't withstand this extreme pressure. Normally, when one cultivates to the second form, the body will reach its limit. Lin Feng stopped. After 3 days of continuous cultivation, he had comprehended quite a lot. With the experience of comprehending the white crane glimmer and his extreme control of his body, his mastery of the moon shuttle incantation was very fast. After 2 days of practice, they had already achieved initial results on the third day. Clap, clap, clap. The sound of hands clapping rang out. Lin Feng turned his head and saw the gratified smile of the warlord from the distant border. The seventh warlord indeed lives up to his name. His comprehension is outstanding. The warlord's eyes lit up. To be able to comprehend the first form of the moon shuttle incantation in just 3 days, I have never heard of such a thing. The fastest recorded ancestor to comprehend the first form took 47 days. Lin Feng smiled and said, "That's why the predecessors plant the trees and the descendants enjoy the shade." In fact, he knew the reason. Simply put, it could be summed up in 2 words. Body. His body was strong enough, even stronger than life-breaking experts. It was easier for him to control his body. If his body's strength was 100, and normal Heaven Glimpse expert strength was 5, and the moon shuttle incantation strength was 1, then he would only need to use 1% of his strength, while other Heaven Glimpse experts would need to use 0% of their strength. The difference was obvious. The warlord laughed heartily, strong but not arrogant. Very good. Did you encounter any difficulties in comprehending it? Lin Feng nodded. Yes, I want to ask. One was willing to learn, and the other was willing to teach. Soon, they entered a thick cultivation atmosphere. For Lin Feng, going to the god ruins wasn't a rush. Instead, comprehending the source of mysteries was more important. Only with enough strength could he obtain enough benefits. 11 days later. So, Lin Feng's body was like a moon arrow as he passed through. The second layer of light speed turned into a pale yellow crescent moon. The light source perfectly merged with Lin Feng's legs. His body formed a stable cycle. The pale yellow crescent moon cut through space. Fast. Truly fast to the extreme. I can't deny it even if I want to. The warlord floated in the air and shook his head with a bitter smile. The student surpassed the master. Seeing Lin Feng slowly comprehend the moon shuttle incantation and surpass him step by step, the warlord couldn't do anything other than sigh. Lin Feng was like a sponge, absorbing everything he taught. Moreover, he did better than him. His speed has already surpassed mine. The warlord understood the reason. It wasn't that Lin Feng grasped it better than him, but that his body was stronger than his. The stronger one's body was, the more they could adapt to the light speed path. The future is his. There will be a day when the Glory Alliance will shine because of him. It definitely will. Thank you, Senior, for your guidance. Lin Feng bowed respectfully. Because of the guidance of the warlord, he could save a lot of time and avoid taking many detours. From what he knew, the fastest person to learn the moon shuttle incantation was his ancestor. He spent 47 days on the first layer and 5 years on the second. 40 times faster. Most of the profound meanings were like this, easy to learn but hard to master. Most of the ancestors spent tens or even hundreds of years to truly comprehend it. Even if he grasped the first layer quickly, he wouldn't be able to complete the second layer without 3 or 4 months. After all, the second layer required a lot of control of the body. Although he couldn't use 100% of his strength, he already had the characteristics of the second layer. A pale yellow crescent moon. You're welcome. The warlord smiled. If I'm not wrong, Lin Feng, you haven't reached your limit yet, right? I won't hide it from Senior. Lin Feng nodded. In these 11 days, the warlord had been guiding him, so he was very clear about his cultivation progress. The warlord nodded. As expected, no wonder you grasped the second layer so quickly. It's all thanks to Senior's guidance. Lin Feng said, I'm just giving you some advice. The warlord paused, his eyes bright. Can your body use 80%? Lin Feng pondered and shook his head. 70%? The warlord's heart trembled. Lin Feng still shook his head. 60%? 50%? 30%? The warlord's eyes opened wider and wider. Okay. Seeing Lin Feng shake his head in the end, the warlord pressed his chest and bitterly smiled. You little monster, you're too much of a blow to me. Letting out a long breath, the warlord calmed down. I don't have anything to teach you, so you'll have to rely on your own comprehension. From my observations, if you can use 100%, it's very likely you'll reach the 5 form, the ancestors control, the yellow crescent moon. Yes, senior. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. Chapter 10:30. The ancestors' spirit has appeared. It's true. The news came from the miracle garden. More than one miraculous cultivator saw it. It can't be fake. That's right. Master told me that even White Tiger King confirmed it. It's more than 80% reliable. It's a pity that I'm only at the Nirvana realm and can't go to the God ruins. Sigh. Lin Feng walked in the glory sacred realm and listened to all kinds of voices. There were many disciples, children, and even unnamed disciples of military lords and warlords in the glory sacred realm. It was very lively. All kinds of news were flying around, and it all pointed to the God ruins. Lin Feng slowed down and absorbed all kinds of information as he walked toward the Fanstar realm. It seems to be true, Lin Feng thought. Rumors stopped with the wise. If the news was fake, the four kings had no reason not to stop it when it caused such a big commotion in the glory sacred realm. After all, it had been half a month since he heard the news. Besides, I've traveled across half of the glory sacred realm, but I haven't seen a single military lord. Lin Feng's clear observation, combined with the news everyone was talking about, and his own judgment, he could basically come to a conclusion. Most of the warlords and military lords in the Glory Alliance who weren't in seclusion, they've all gone to the God ruins. Fanstar Realm. The 7th warlord, Lu Xing, King Fan Xing's unnamed disciple, bowed respectfully. Is King Fan Xing here? Lin Feng asked. Lu Xing answered, I'm sorry, the 7th warlord. Master left 10 days ago. Left? Lin Feng's eyes deepened. Did he go to the God ruins? Lu Xing nodded. Master didn't say, but it should be. I heard that the ancestors' spirit appeared, and the God ruins rose to the Emperor divine realm. The ancestors' true body appeared, and a vision appeared. More than 80% of the warlords and military lords have gone. So, the rumors are true, Lin Feng murmured. Lu Xing's words dispelled the last of his doubts. As an unnamed disciple of King Fan Xing, he was familiar with King Fan Xing's disciples and the unnamed disciples of the other 4 kings. Naturally, the accuracy of his information was much higher. For example, the Emperor Divine Realm, the ancestor's true body, and so on. It's true, Lu Xing said. Teacher has a good relationship with the Zhao Tian clan. This time, it's not only our Glory Alliance that's entering the Divine Spirit Ruins. The Miracle Garden's Heavenly Silence 5 clans, the mysterious Luotian Alliance, the Stellar Hall, and other large forces are also heading there. 1 garden, 2 alliances, 3 temples for factions, and 8 sections. Lin Feng was moved. This time, it was obvious that there was a huge commotion. He could completely understand why it would cause such a huge commotion. Great Emperor Min Wu, the ancestor of mankind, was the transcendent existence who had set up the cursed seal. His significance to the people of Nemo is extraordinary, especially at such a critical time. The Devil Star appeared. As far as he knew, the Miracle Garden had sent many experts into the Death Knell Cemetery and the Gate of Heavenly Wrath, but they had found nothing. The demonic star was constantly growing, and the pressure it brought to the human experts was increasing day by day. Now that great Emperor Min Wu had suddenly revealed his true form, and the strange phenomenon of the human god's ruins appeared, if one were to say that it had nothing to do with the demonic star, who would believe it? Back then, it was because of the existence of great Emperor Min Wu that the demon race was completely suppressed. Did a strange phenomenon happen in the god's ruins 100 or 200 million years ago? Lin Feng asked. Lu Xing shook his head. According to what I know, the strange phenomenon of the god's ruins. This should be the first time. Lin Feng gave a soft on. With a flash of light in his eyes, Lin Feng revealed a faint smile to Lu Xing. I understand. Many thanks for your information. Goodbye. Yes, sir. Lu Xing returned the greeting. There must be a reason for this strange phenomenon. Lin Feng was very clear on this, especially the existence of the ancient rare treasure. Because he had obtained the first ancient rare treasure, the skeleton armor, there were a total of 3 ancient rare treasures. Other than the third ancient rare treasure that sealed Nemo Planet in the Silent World, there was still one more ancient rare treasure. It's actually very simple. Once a martial artist obtains an ancient rare treasure, there will be a reaction. Lin Feng pursed his lips. He only needed to let his clone leave the 10,000 origin mustard stone. If there was a reaction, it meant that the second ancient rare treasure had been obtained. Then the strange phenomenon of the gods' ruins might not be related to the ancient rare treasure. On the other hand, it was very likely that the second ancient rare treasure had appeared. Just like twins, when the first ancient rare treasure appears, it will naturally attract the second ancient rare treasure, Lin Feng said. This possibility was very high. However, there was no way to confirm it here. The danger was too great. If the second ancient rare treasure had been obtained, then his position would be locked onto by the other party. The Glory Sanctuary was too eye-catching. If the one who obtained the ancient rare treasure was one of the 4 kings, then he would be walking right into a trap. Enter the gods' ruins. It won't be too late to let my clone sense it. Lin Feng already had a plan. Whether the strange phenomenon of the gods' ruins was related to the ancient rare treasure or not, he had to make this trip. How could he miss out on such a grand event with so many powerful martial artists gathered on Nemo Planet? Even if it was just to hone his skills, there was no harm in doing so. His battle strength was comparable to a normal life-breaking stage martial artist, and he had the moon shuttle incantation to protect himself. It was more than enough to protect himself. It's time to enter the Glory Treasury. Lin Feng's figure disappeared with a whoosh. The 9th floor of the Glory Treasury. This was the most desirable place in the Glory Alliance. Every Glory martial artist could obtain the treasures they wanted from the 9th floor of the Glory Treasury. Lin Feng had obtained the qualification to enter the 8th floor from King Fan Xing. He could choose a Supreme Heaven Upper Holy Treasure. Supreme Heaven Upper Holy Treasures only existed in the 6 Forbidden Lands and could not be created by humans. It was impossible to find a Supreme Heaven Upper Holy Treasure in the periphery. Only by going deep and risking one's life could one obtain it. Even so, Supreme Heaven Upper Holy Treasures were very rare. Only a long-established force like the Glory Alliance had them in stock. If it were not for the sake of recruiting a genius like Lin Feng, how could King Fan Xing be willing to take it out? 7th Warlord, please come in, the martial artist in charge of guarding said respectfully. There was no need for military merit medals or any keepsakes above the 7th floor. The treasures obtained could not be transferred. Any martial artist who obtained the qualification to enter would have to register. Under the envious gaze of the martial artist guarding behind him, Lin Feng entered the 8th floor of the Glory Treasury and was instantly sealed. It was an absolutely enclosed space, free from disturbances and extremely safe. This was the important place of the Glory Alliance. The 8th level of the Glory Treasure Vault. Lin Feng's eyes glistened. Unlike the 4th and 5th levels he'd entered earlier, what he saw wasn't a dense array of treasures that dazzled the eyes, but every single one of them was extremely exquisite, and they were priceless treasures in the outside world. The Glory Alliance is really rich. Lin Feng sighed softly. His gaze swept across the room and was instantly attracted by a magnificent and ever-changing fantasy in front of him. Chapter 1031. This was a multicolored ball with many changes. The strange colors were constantly changing, and it had a magnificent magic power. Lin Feng didn't need to read the introduction to know what kind of treasure it was. An illusion-type, super heaven-grade upper holy treasure. Lin Feng's willpower was extremely strong, and his resistance to illusions was superb even without the 10,000 origin mustard stone. Those who were good at defense were often good at offense, especially the true dragon holy power, which was quite comprehensive. It had extremely strong abilities in all aspects of the talent soul. With his talent soul, which was close to the life-breaking stage, supplemented by his heaven eye cultivation, and extremely strong willpower, if he used this multicolored ball to cast illusions, it was very likely to cause damage to life-breaking stage powerhouses. It was very good, but it was not suitable for him now. A true powerhouse's willpower is often quite strong, and illusions are not easy to work on. Lin Feng understood that although his talent in illusions was not bad, it was not top-notch. There was no need to waste his only chance to choose a super heaven-grade upper holy treasure here. He couldn't win against an opponent. He couldn't win with this multicolored ball either. Not to mention, there was a treasure better than this multicolored ball in the use of the true dragon holy power. The golden crown. Lin Feng already had a choice in his heart. The first nebula-grade saint treasure he had obtained from the Shiva sect's holy temple was a talent soul-type treasure. Now that his bloodline had awakened for the third time, not only had his life level and origin star realm greatly improved, even his first and second meridian diagrams had improved. My talent soul was nurtured by the 10,000 origin mustard stone and is already outstanding. As long as I break through the heaven glimpse and enter the life-breaking stage, the level of my talent soul will be comparable to the nebula grade. At that time, I can try to forcibly integrate with this golden crown. Walking on the 8th floor of the Glory Treasury, Lin Feng was not in a hurry. There was only one chance to choose, so he naturally had to find the most suitable one for him. In fact, the most important thing for him was the saber. Weapons were the life of a martial artist. A martial artist could have nothing, but he must have a suitable weapon. He already had the new black Sin saber. Therefore, the need for other super heaven-grade holy treasures was greatly reduced. There's no need to choose for the god ruins. Lin Feng was quite satisfied with his current combat strength. He had the nefarious black blade and the 4 absolutes of 1,000 knife stream for offense, the 10,000 origin mustard stone for soul defense, and the moon shuttle art for escape. Of course, if he wanted to increase his battle prowess, there were too many details to supplement, such as increasing his strength, strengthening his defense, increasing his origin energy, and so on. However, there was no need to pursue perfection. Super heaven-grade battle armor. Lin Feng walked over to a set of silver battle armor. There was a totem that looked like a unicorn on it, and it was filled with light energy. His heart skipped a beat. This battle armor contains the Tao of Light, and it's extremely effective against dark-type attacks. Radiant Cloud, Sacred Armor. Lin Feng glanced at it. Beside the silver battle armor, there was a clear indication, including its origins, functions, characteristics, and weaknesses. This was a set of transcendent heaven-rank saint artifact from the Treasure Pagoda. Just as he expected, it contained an extremely strong Tao of Light. Cloud Light Divine Beast Soul. Lin Feng nodded. The so-called Cloud Light Divine Beast should be the divine beast that looked like the radiant unicorn. It's born with light, and it counters the Tao of darkness. It's most suitable for martial artists who cultivate the Tao of Light. Lin Feng looked carefully. As a battle armor of the Tao of Light, its defense is slightly mediocre among battle armors of the same level. It's not outstanding, and it's not good against power. Lin Feng frowned slightly. No wonder this radiant cloud sacred armor was placed here and not taken away. The Tao of Light was innately effective against the devil race, not to mention a defensive battle armor. Humans have been fighting with the devil race all year round, so this battle armor was very suitable, but it was not good against power. The devil race was most proficient in pure power, and the Tao of darkness was only supplementary. So, it's only a transcendent heaven-ranked saint artifact. Lin Feng nodded and glanced at the radiant cloud sacred armor again. He listed it as one of the possible options, and then looked at it again. Transcendent heaven-ranked saint fruit, Qi Duan. Bloodline type, holy fruit greatly increased the density of one's bloodline. Lin Feng looked at the orange fruit that was the size of a longan fruit. The energy contained within was like a ball of lightning condensed to the size of a longan fruit. Once swallowed, it would instantly explode. It was more powerful than any of the bloodline type holy fruits he had ever eaten. There was only one. There were originally 7. Lin Feng looked at the introduction of Qi Duan. This was the treasure that had been taken away the most from the 8th floor of the Glory Treasury. Although it was not as valuable as many transcendent heaven-ranked saint artifacts and could greatly increase combat strength, its effect was irreplaceable. The first bloodline-type Saint fruit had the best effect. Most life-breaking experts can't awaken their bloodline for the third time, let alone heaven glimpse experts. They have a strong need for bloodline-type Saint fruits. Lin Feng was very clear that the difference between the second and third bloodline awakenings was huge. He continued to explore. Every treasure here was more or less helpful to him. Lin Feng couldn't take it all in. Most of them were saint treasures and saint fruits. Of course, there were also some strange treasures, such as the mother-child blood tower, some spiritual roots, and so on. They all come from the 6 forbidden lands. Lin Feng looked at them one by one. The origins of all the treasures were recorded in detail. Except for some unknown, more than 90% came from the treasure tower and god ruins. Less than 10% came from the Gate of Heaven's Wrath, the ancient Thousand Islands Sea, and the Death Knell Graveyard. Not many human experts had entered the last 3 forbidden lands. Alternate space box? Lin Feng's eyes lit up and stopped. There was a very special treasure in front of him. It was made of pure, translucent metal. There was a universe inside. All kinds of angles intersected like spirals. It was like a 4-dimensional space. God's ruins. Lin Feng was tempted. Obviously, this was a product left behind by the former technological civilization of Planet Nemo. Although it was a small space box, it was very useful. It can open up an alternate space? Lin Feng looked at a white button on the top of the space box. According to the introduction, pressing the button could bring him into a 10 square meter alternate space. He would be separated from the world and disappear along with his aura. He would not be discovered. A life-saving weapon, Lin Feng said softly. If he ran into danger, he could escape into the alternate space. Who could do anything to him? However, there must be a drawback for it to be placed here without finding its owner. So it needs 10 seconds to open. Lin Feng smiled. If he was really chased by an expert and had nowhere to run, even 1 second would be enough to kill him, let alone 10 seconds. Moreover, it had a huge flaw. It was activated with energy. Once it was used up, it could not be replenished. Lin Feng muttered. Chapter 1032. This is it. Lin Feng took out the dimensional box. To the current him, preserving his own life was his #1 priority, especially since he had never entered the divine spirit ruins. On top of that, the human factions had gathered this time. If an ancient treasure appeared, it would definitely cause a storm of blood. It could be said that danger lurked in every corner. 10 seconds of activation time was not a problem. He just needed to activate it while using the moon shuttle incantation. That way, even if he encountered an opponent whose speed was comparable to or close to his, he could still survive. The activation of the dimensional box is a program. It doesn't have to be fixed in one place like a teleportation array. Lin Feng carefully browsed through the introduction. If it had to be fixed in one place for 10 seconds like a teleportation array, then it was not qualified to be placed on the 8th floor of the Glory Treasury. If it was really still, it would take less than 0.1 seconds to enter the dimensional box. Of course, it could not be used in a fast-changing battle, but it was already very useful to him. It's a perfect match for the moon shuttle incantation. Lin Feng nodded. Other warriors might be worried about the problem of energy, but he had the 10,000 origin mustard stone. With such abundant energy, how could maintaining a mere dimensional box be a problem? I'll definitely have to enter the divine ruins for more than a day or 2. I can't guarantee my safety if I cultivate alone in a dangerous place. The dimensional box is just right. Lin Feng had already calculated in his mind. 10 square meters of space was enough. The dimensional box was part of the universe. He could enter the origin sea to cultivate in it, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Compared to other treasures with similar advantages and disadvantages, the dimensional box's disadvantages did not affect him too much. Dimensional box? The warrior in charge of registration was stunned. Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Okay, please wait a moment, 7th Warlord. I apologize for my duties. The warrior in charge bowed. No problem. Lin Feng smiled. The 7th floor and above of the Glory Treasury used a completely closed registration system. After he took one item, The warrior in charge of registration would enter with the other warriors to check that he did not take more. It was not that he did not trust him. It was just a process. Soon, okay, 7th Warlord, I've already registered you. Please, the warrior in charge said respectfully. Lin Feng nodded. Under the slightly puzzled gazes of the guards, he left. He naturally knew that the dimensional box wasn't ranked in the 8th floor of the Glory Treasury, but he had never chosen treasures based on their value. Currently, of all the treasures in the 8th floor of the Glory Treasury, the one that suited him the most, it was the dimensional box. Glory's Sanctuary Battle Achievement World. This was one of the busiest places in the Glory Sacred Realm. Any expert in the Glory Sacred Realm could exchange their battle merits for anything they wanted. Treasures, holy fruits, medicinal pills, delicacies, puppets, and even beauties. Anything one could think of could be exchanged here. It's really lively. Lin Feng walked on the street. There was an endless stream of people. There weren't only experts from the Glory Alliance. There were also ordinary people. However, the ordinary people here were at least at the Nirvana Ascension stage and couldn't be compared to the 33 continents. He knew about the existence of the War Contributions world, but he had never been here before. The border between the Glory Alliance and the Miracle Garden. Lin Feng said. The Glory Sanctuary was inside the Miracle Garden, so naturally they had to follow the rules of the Miracle Garden. Being in closed-door cultivation was like having a wooden stake in a Miracle Garden. It was very ugly. But with the existence of the War Contributions world, there were all kinds of people gathered together. It was like having flowers around a wooden stake, so naturally it wasn't that eye-catching. Of course, the War Contributions world still belonged to the Glory Alliance, being managed by King Shanzhong of the Four Kings. However, the various treasures and secret books were not only sold by the Glory Alliance. Come, don't miss out on this. The Miracle Medicine Store is having a 10% discount today. A 10% discount. Newly refined Fire Dragon Origin Energy Pills. You'll be instantly healed if you take one. Buy 10 and get 2 free. Buy 100 and get 50 free. Selling maps. I have the most complete map of the Divine Ruins. 55% of the area has already been marked. Bullshit, you think you're from the Miracle Sanctuary? 55%. I have 65%. Che, old dog, if you have 65% of the map, I'll change my surname to yours. Lin Feng slowly walked forward. This kind of atmosphere was very harmonious. Now that the Divine Ruins had descended and large amounts of martial artists had entered, the various items of the Divine Ruins were being sold very well. Especially for martial artists entering for the first time, the maps were very important, but for him, it wasn't that useful. The ones shouting on the street were at most the maps of the outer regions. In the outer regions where army commanders and experts could move freely, it didn't matter if they had a map or not. The map he wanted, he might not be able to buy it in the War Contributions world. It didn't matter. It wasn't wrong to follow the crowd after entering. As one of the 6 great danger lands, the Divine Ruins were still very mysterious, proving that the inside was not normal. The maps circulating outside had very little effect. I heard that Drunken Dream has a new batch of beauties from the Imperial Demon race. Is that true? Of course, this foolish brother went to taste them last night. Zay, their skin is tender and supple, completely different from human girls. Little brother Lien, if you don't go, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. The Imperial Demon race is a demon race that rarely produces beauties. All right, I'll go now. A ripple appeared in Lin Feng's heart. He wasn't moved by the beauties, but he sighed. The hatred between the humans and demons on planet Nemo was so deep that they couldn't live under the same sky. Demons kidnapped humans and sold them as slaves. But weren't humans the same? Standing on the human side, they naturally hated the demons. But standing on the demon's side, as a life born on planet Nemo, they hated humans as well. As for himself, both sides are enemies. Lin Feng was very clear. His situation was actually very complicated, but for now he was temporarily on the human side, focusing on killing the demon race. After all, this was an imminent crisis for Earth, unless his identity as an Earthling was exposed. There shouldn't be any difference, Lin Feng thought. The people on planet Nemo were descendants of the second generation of humans, while he was a third-generation human. In terms of blood, they were like relatives. At least until now, his identity was still a secret and hadn't been exposed. He had met King Fan Xing, and even a life-breaking stage expert couldn't see through him. This proved that there wasn't much difference. But it's better to be careful, Lin Feng said. He was already used to moving forward in ambushes from all sides, so this bit of rugged terrain was nothing. After passing through a long street, Lin Feng quickly found a landmark building, and a smile appeared on his lips. This was his destination for entering the world of war achievements. Chapter 1033. Yama Knife Mill. It was named after the Yama clan, one of the 5 clans of Tian Mo. Only the Yama clan could do it. The bloodlines of the 5 clans of Tian Mo represented the pinnacle of sub-perfect bloodlines. They each had their own strengths. For example, the Feiji clan was born with the ability to control the wind. The Hunling clan was outstanding in sensing the earth, and every member of the Zhao Tian clan was a son of lightning. The Yama clan was the pinnacle of dark-type bloodlines. But among the 5 clans of Tian Mo, the Yama clan used to be the weakest. It wasn't that their bloodline was weaker than the other 4 clans, but that their source of darkness was much weaker against the Demon clan. In terms of combat power, the Yama clan was ranked the weakest among the 5 clans of Tian Mo. Therefore, in addition to ensuring the continuation of their bloodline and the inheritance of darkness, the Yama clan also constantly improved one power to the extreme. Today, the Yama clan was no longer the weakest clan of the 5 clans of Tian Mo. It was because of this. Knife skills that had been immersed in refining for hundreds of millions of years. The sword of the Crimson Sun clan and the knife of the Yama clan were recognized as the pinnacle of human strength on planet Nemo. Lin Feng entered. Dense knife energy rushed toward him. The moment he entered, he heard the sound of knives being swung. A martial artist wearing the insignia of the Yama clan was teaching other martial artists how to use the knife. Every stroke was strong and powerful, and it contained the essence of the knife. Below, hundreds of people were practicing in an orderly manner. Hello. The martial artist holding the knife at the door bowed respectfully. Whoosh. Lin Feng took out the warlord token. The martial artist holding the knife's eyes lit up and bowed. Greetings, Lord Warlord. The atmosphere on the first floor of the hall suddenly froze. Everyone looked at Lin Feng. Even though the Yama knife mill was set up in the Glory Sanctuary, it was rare to see a true warlord expert here. Even the instructor, wearing the insignia of the Yama clan, looked over with the intention to fight. Take me to the Yama Pavilion. Lin Feng put away the warlord token. Yes, Lord, the martial artist holding the knife said respectfully. Under the envious and reverent gazes of the crowd, Lin Feng passed through the main hall and entered Yenixien. The Yama saber mills could be seen everywhere in the Miracle Garden. They were the foundation of the Yama clan's expansion. Every Yama saber mill had an instructor who taught martial practitioners how to practice the saber and the authentic Yama saber techniques. Now, the number of martial practitioners practicing saber techniques in the Yama saber mills was more than 100 times the number of Yama clan members. There were also many who had joined the Yama clan. But in reality, the original intention of the Yama Saber Workshop was not to be a martial arts club, but to sell sabers and saber technique manuals. The Yama race wasn't stingy in selling their treasures. There was no benefit in keeping them to themselves. If he didn't sell them, there would be others who would. In terms of secret saber techniques, he only needed to keep the strongest ones, or the last move of each saber technique. Expanding their influence was what the Yama race wanted the most. Moreover, there was also the income of battle merits. Yin Fong from the Yin Chung clan greets Lord Warlord. A graceful and beautiful woman bowed with her hands clasped in front of her. Hello. Lin Feng nodded. Yin Fong smiled. Lord, do you want to buy a saber or saber technique manuals? Manuals, Lin Feng answered. He had already comprehended the 4 absolutes of the Thousand Saber art. His saber technique had reached the 4th tier, intricate. This was the upper middle tier of the Heaven Glimpse stage. His purpose in entering the Yama Saber Mill this time was to learn higher-level saber techniques and increase his battle strength. All right, please follow me. Yin Feng gestured for him to follow and led the way. Lin Feng nodded and followed. Yin Kuxian, how would you like to choose the manuals? Yin Feng asked with a smile. How? Lin Feng was curious. Yin Feng nodded. There's a price range, Saber Heart Realm, Origin Energy, Saber Technique Type, etc. Saber Technique Realm. Lin Feng did not lack money. Yin Feng nodded. Does Lord want pure saber techniques, or one that has merged with the Origin of Darkness? Both are fine, Lin Feng said. Pure saber techniques were relatively weaker, but the power of the saber itself was like the foundation of the body. He could equip it with battle armor, battle boots, and other enhancements. For example, his strongest technique was the Path of Light Speed, which could be combined with pure saber techniques to unleash greater power. However, the fusion was not an easy task. Saber techniques that had merged with the Origin of Darkness would increase his battle strength faster and stronger, but it was relatively rigid. Yin Feng smiled. If Lord has the Origin of Darkness, Yin Feng suggests that you buy a saber technique that has merged with the Origin of Darkness. Sure. Lin Feng nodded. Although he had only gained the recognition of the Dark Demon Path of the 6 Paths of Darkness, it was not difficult for him to gain the recognition of the other 5 Paths of Darkness with the body of light and darkness. Yin Feng's suggestion was right. Cultivating a saber technique that had merged with the Origin of Darkness would increase his battle strength faster. All right, Lord, may I ask what your Saber Heart Realm is? Yin Feng smiled. Level 4, Intricate, Lin Feng said. Yin Feng looked surprised and then returned to normal. Lord, please wait. Soon, Yin Feng took out 3 different saber technique manuals and stepped forward. Lord, please take a look. These 3 saber techniques are in line with your current Saber Heart Realm. For example, the Silent Killing Saber manual can be cultivated at level 3, and the peak of level 4 can unleash its full power. And this, I want a saber technique that is above level 5, Lin Feng said directly. For level 4 saber techniques, he had the 4th move of the Thousand Saber Art, the Invincible Saber. The strongest saber technique was only at the peak of level 4. Although the Tao of Origin was stronger than the Invincible Saber, it was not much stronger, especially since the Invincible Saber was a pure saber technique that could be fused with the Tao of Origin. If he wanted to cultivate it, he needed a saber technique that was above level 5. Yin Feng looked hesitant. Lord, saber techniques above level 5 are not taught to outsiders by the Yanxi clan. Level 5 Saber Heart represented the life-breaking stage. It was a world of difference from level 4 Saber Heart. Experts with level 5 Saber Heart were more than 80% of the life-breaking stage experts. It was normal that such saber techniques were not taught to outsiders. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He shook his head and looked disappointed. Then he turned around. Lord, please wait for a moment. Seeing Lin Feng leave, Yin Feng shouted, Lord, can you tell me your name so that I can ask my clan? Oh, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. It was not that he did not teach it to outsiders, but that it depended on the person. Lin Feng, the 7th warlord of the Glory Alliance, Lin Feng said. There is no need to hide this. Yes, Lord. Yin Feng bowed and left. He waited patiently. Lin Feng was not worried that he would return empty-handed. Although level 5 saber techniques were at the life-breaking stage, they did not touch the bottom line of the Yanxi clan. The Yanxi clan opened the Yanxi Saber Workshop not only to expand their influence, but also to make friends with experts. Now that he was famous in the Glory Sanctuary, he believed that the Yanxi clan would treat him with sincerity, unless their clan was short-sighted. Soon, Lord, sorry to keep you waiting. Yin Feng opened the door and bowed respectfully. There was a tall man beside her. The moment he entered, he smiled brightly. Ah, I've heard a lot about you, 7th Warlord. Chapter 1034. The newcomer was a Heaven Glimpse expert. A Heaven Glimpse expert from the Tian Mo5 clans had a high status. Yanjin Blade Mill would not station such an expert. Obviously, he came from the Miracle Garden. Otherwise, he would not have waited for such a long time. But because of this, the sincerity of the Yin Jin clan could be seen. "Hello." Lin Feng shook hand with the tall man. "Please sit." The tall man smiled and sat down. "Let me introduce myself. I am Yin Li, the general manager of the Yin Jin blade mill." Lin Feng. Lin Feng introduced himself. Yin Li was not the general manager of the Yin Jin blade mill. He was the general manager of all the Yin Jin blade mills. "I heard that the seventh warlord is young and mysterious." "Indeed, seeing is believing." Yin Li smiled. "You are so young and promising. Brother Lin's future is limitless. If there's a chance, please give me some advice." "Brother Yin, you are exaggerating," Lin Feng said humbly. Yin Li waved his hand and took out 3 sets of blade technique manuals. He placed them on the table. The Yin Jin blade mill's rule is that it does not sell blade technique manuals above the 5th level of blade heart. But today, for Brother Lin, I will break this rule. Then, Yin Li patted his chest and said, "These 3 blade technique manuals are the secrets of the Yin Jin clan. They are the fruits of our ancestors' blood and sweat. This evil light blade technique is a blade technique created by our ancestors after they practiced the evil light blade technique to the extreme. It combines the opposing path of light with the path of darkness. It is marvelous. And this Southern Dipper heavy blade formation is not a real blade formation. Once its power explodes, the blade formation will erupt like a geyser. Blade after blade, it uses the path of darkness to perfectly perform the 5th level of blade heart. In terms of attack power, it is the best of the 3 blade techniques. Finally, this soul-chasing flame blade technique is second only to the Southern Dipper heavy blade formation. But the blade technique is lighter and more ghostly. It contains the path of annihilation and devouring. Its explosive power is unparalleled. 3 blade techniques at the 5th level of blade heart. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. No matter which one he cultivated, it would be of great help to his battle prowess. However, his energy was limited, so he could only choose one. "Can I look through it?" Lin Feng asked. "Of course." Yin Li smiled. Under his nose, he was not afraid that Lin Feng would secretly memorize the saber technique. Lin Feng nodded and opened the book. He had been practicing with the saber for many years, so he only needed to flip through a small part of the saber technique manual to understand the general type and power of the saber technique. Lin Feng wasn't greedy. He casually flipped through a few pages of each manual to get a general idea. The Southern Dipper heavy saber formation is an absolute force that can destroy everything in its path. One is hard and the other is soft. Soul-chasing flame saber uses softness to be hard. The saber technique is light and agile, like an assassin killing people. The evil light saber art is the most mediocre of the 3 saber arts. In terms of attack power, it is not as good as the first 2, but it is better in terms of origin and its unique saber art. Lin Feng closed the 3 manuals and closed his eyes. The 3 saber technique manuals each had their own merits. Rather than saying that it was difficult to choose, it was more accurate to say that each one was biased and not very suitable for him. It was no wonder that after comprehending the saber heart, every martial artist would have their own saber Dao. The deeper one's understanding of the saber, the more difficult it would be to match someone else's saber Dao, especially fusion. The 3 saber techniques were like a treasure trove of glory. There were pros and cons. Although I want to make friends with you, the Yama tribe won't sell their best cultivation technique to you. Lin Feng murmured in his heart. He opened his eyes and smiled at Yin Li, shaking his head. "You're right. You're both at the 5th level of saber heart." Yin Li's expression changed slightly, then returned to normal. "Brother Lin, you don't like any of these 3 saber technique manuals?" Yin Li asked. "They are different from my saber Dao," Lin Feng said. He was retreating in order to advance. Since Yin Li took out 3 sets of saber heart at the beginning, it proved that the Yama clan valued making friends with him. Since that was the case, he might as well ask them what kind of saber technique they could give him. He believed that the next set of saber technique manuals would be better than the previous 2. "Well," Yin Li hesitated. "We got the information about the 7th warlord, Lin Feng." He was shocked. He was only a level 4 genius and an ace soldier. Not only did he make it into the ranking competition, But he also became the champion miraculously. Not only that, but 2 years after he became the champion, he had already crossed the grand nirvana realm and became a heaven glimpse cultivator. His cultivation speed was not fast, it was monstrous. The 5 clans of the Tianmo clan were not as harmonious as they seemed. There were conflicts between people, even those closest to them. Not to mention the 5 clans of the Tianmo clan, who were at the center of power. They schemed against each other and secretly competed. If it were not for the existence of the Demon Clan, the 5 clans of the Tianmo clan would have had internal strife. Every clan of the Tianmo clan was making friends with strong cultivators and even recruiting strong cultivators. Geniuses like Lin Feng had been noticed, but they were not magnified. Moreover, Lin Feng lived in seclusion. Even if they wanted to make friends with him, they couldn't do it. If they missed this great opportunity, not only would they not be able to make friends, they would also be estranged. That's all. Lin Feng asked. If Yanli answered, that's all, then he would choose one of the 3 sets. But if he answered, there's one more. Yanli came back from his thoughts and squeezed out a smile. Oh, Lin Feng secretly thought that it was as expected. As if a piece of meat had been dug out, Yanli took out a set of silver-gray saber technique manuals. It was very simple, but it had a good texture. It should be made from the leather of a mythical beast or a ferocious beast. Even the paper of the manual was not ordinary. There were 3 words demonic evil way printed on it. This is a saber technique manual? Lin Feng was startled. It seemed to be a technique for cultivating the profound meaning of origin. It is a saber technique manual, Yanli said, because the ancestor who created this saber technique was named Yin Shidao. He gathered all his saber techniques into a set of saber techniques and called it Demonic Evil Way. Brother Lin, don't underestimate this thin book. It contains the essence of my ancestor Yin Shidao's life. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. My ancestor was a life-breaking stage cultivator? Yanli nodded. Saber Heart, the limit of the 6th level. Lin Feng was shocked. He opened the manual. If the 5th level of Saber Heart was the power of a life-breaking stage cultivator, then the 6th level was the limit of the life-breaking stage cultivator. This set of Demonic Evil Way can be ranked in the top 5 of all the saber technique manuals of the Yanmo clan. It is also the best set I have. Yanli looked at Lin Feng and shook his head with a bitter smile. If Brother Lin is not satisfied with this set, I'll take it. Lin Feng just casually flipped through a few pages and then closed it. Chapter 1035. Yin Li's words couldn't be completely trusted. The demonic way couldn't be in the top 5 of the Yama race's saber techniques. If it was real, the Yama race wouldn't sell it, even if it was only a part of it. Such a manual was enough to be the Yama race's treasure. However, Yin Li wasn't lying. Yin Shidao, the ancestor who created the demonic way, was indeed a life-breaker expert at the peak of the 6th level of Saber Heart. The manual also mentioned him. The manual did record Yin Shidao's ultimate technique, the demonic 3-strike. The first strike required the 4th level of Saber Heart, the second required the 5th level of Saber Heart, and the third required 6th level of Saber Heart. Lin Feng was shocked. In terms of saber technique power, it was much stronger than the previous 3 manuals. The Yama race shouldn't sell such a saber technique manual, but the demonic way was different from other saber techniques. Brother Lin, you are indeed a master of saber techniques. Your eyes are as sharp as pearls. Yin Li smiled. If you can fully comprehend the demonic way, your combat power will be comparable to a top life-breaker expert. If you don't want to buy it, it won't matter how many battle merits others offer. Thank you. Lin Feng smiled. Of course, he knew what Yin Li meant. He wanted him to remember the Yama race's favor. As for the battle merits, Yin Li hesitated. Because the demonic way isn't for sale, it's hard to determine the price. Looking at Lin Feng, Yin Li pondered and said, if it's too high, Brother Lin may be dissatisfied. If it's too low, you won't be worthy of this life-breaker saber technique manual. Yin Li emphasized the words peak of the life-breaking stage and said, how about this, Brother Lin? You decide the price. What a good strategy. Lin Feng didn't refuse. How about the demonic light saber art, southern dipper heavy saber formation, and soul-chasing flame saber? Yen Li's eyes flashed. The starting price for the 5th level of saber heart is 10 million battle merits. The demonic light saber art is 16 million battle merits. The southern dipper heavy saber formation is 40 million battle merits. And the soul-chasing flame saber is 50 million battle merits. Since that's the case, I believe that demonic path is worth 100 million battle merits, Lin Feng said. Yan Li was stunned for a moment, and his expression darkened. Brother Lin, you should know that the starting price of a saber technique manual for the 6th level of saber heart is 100 million battle points. I know, Lin Feng said, but the demonic path is at best a saber technique manual for the 5th level of the saber heart realm. I think 100 million battle credits is enough. Yan Li said solemnly. In the demonic path, the 2nd strike of the demonic triple strike is already at the 5th stage of the saber heart realm, while the 3rd strike is at the 6th stage of the saber heart realm. Dare I ask, Brother Yan, after ancestor Yin Xiadao, is there any Yin family martial practitioner who successfully cultivated the 3rd strike of the devil demon's 3 heavy strikes? Lin Feng asked. This? Yan Li was instantly stumped. No, Lin Feng continued, because according to the records of the demonic way, the 3rd strike of the demonic triple strike was not completed, and no matter if it was the 1st strike or the 2nd strike, one would need to enter the dark demonic state to comprehend it. It is extremely difficult, and the slightest bit of carelessness will cause one to go berserk. Yan Li knew this was bad. He did not expect Lin Feng to be able to deduce so much just by casually flipping through the demonic path. The demonic path indeed recorded the demonic triple strike, but the 3rd strike was not completed because the creator of this saber technique, ancestor Yin Xiadao, died in the end. He went berserk and died. In order to create the perfect 3rd strike, he entered the dark demonic state, and in the end, even his consciousness was swallowed by the devil. Even so, Brother Lin's bid, Yan Li frowned, and his aura was suppressed. The demonic path is very difficult and dangerous to cultivate. I believe there are very few martial practitioners in the Yin family who can cultivate this saber technique. Lin Feng looked at Yan Li and said, "It is not that this saber technique is bad, but the target audience is too niche. Regardless, it is a secret manual for the 6th stage of the saber heart realm, and I respect the demonic path senior who created this saber technique. How about this? I will bid 100 million. Lin Feng looked at Yan Li. Without a doubt, Yan Li's price was much higher than 100 million. After all, a secret manual for the 6th stage of the Saber Heart realm could not be bought anywhere else, including the Glory Alliance. 100 million battle credits. Yan Li frowned and pondered. Lin Feng did not say anything, and only looked at Yan Li. From his expression, it could be inferred that 100 million battle credits was his bottom line. However, it was his bottom line. 150 million. This is my final offer. If you can't accept it, Lin Feng revealed a calm smile as he looked at Yan Li. Yan Li's heart skipped a beat. His eyes rolled rapidly as he gritted his teeth and said, "Deal. I look forward to working with you." Lin Feng took out the battle credits gems and extended his hand with a smile. One secret manual cost a total of 150 million battle achievements. It was a shocking number, but it was worth it. The real price is at least 500 million. Lin Feng knew very well that there was more than one saber technique manual for the 5th stage of the Saber Heart realm. However, there is only one saber technique manual for the 6th stage of the Saber Heart realm. The rarer something was, the more valuable it was. Demonic 3 strike from the 4th stage of the Saber Heart realm to the 6th stage can be used to cultivate the 1000 saber style. I can use this saber technique up to the nebula level. Lin Feng was very satisfied. There was one thing that Yan Li was right about. The demonic 3 strike was indeed a top saber technique for the Lifebreaker level. Although the saber technique had a lot of drawbacks, it could affect one's mind or cause one to go berserk. However, he was least afraid of the effects on the soul. Because he had the 10,000 origin mustard stone, he could guarantee that nothing would go wrong. The path of the dark demon was also known as the path of the demon. It was easy to get lost and be affected. However, during the Grand Nirvana, he was the most talented in the 6 paths of darkness. The demonic path was a perfect match for him. The 150 million was well spent. Lin Feng smiled. After leaving the Yamasaber workshop, Lin Feng continued to buy. With 400 million battle merits, he naturally wouldn't waste it. Although he couldn't enter the glory treasury, there were super heaven rank holy treasures for sale in the world of battle merits. However, there was no other way. Heaven rank holy treasures could be artificially created, but super heaven rank holy treasures could only be found in the 6 great forbidden lands. Heading to the auction house, Lin Feng bought 2 super heaven rank holy treasures with his absolute advantage in battle merits. Then he left. Although there might be more super heaven rank holy treasures in the future, there was no need to waste time. As far as he was concerned, his current equipment was more or less enough. Returning to the Glory Alliance 7, Yinho Junju, the White Ram Army Lord, and Iwu Junju had already set off. The affairs of the Glory Alliance were usually managed by the 3 ace army commanders. Lin Feng was happy to be a hands-off manager. He met with Manzi, said a few words, and quickly left. The teleportation array lit up, and Lin Feng's figure disappeared. He headed to the God Ruins. Chapter 1036. At the Glory Alliance's base. The Divine Ruins was the most dangerous place for humans to enter out of the 6 most dangerous places. Every major force would have a base at the periphery, which was much more convenient. After all, the inter-region teleportation portal consumed a lot of energy each time it was used, and the portal itself needed to be guarded. Outside the Divine Ruins, there was also danger. Lin Feng's arrival attracted a lot of attention. After all, he looked unfamiliar. Although he was appointed as the 7th warlord by King Fan Xing, only some of the generals and warlords of the Glory Sanctuary knew about it. Most people didn't know about it, and the warriors who had seen Lin Feng, the 7th warlord, were even rarer. "Brother, you don't look familiar. Are you a general expert?" A man with a huge axe on his back walked over. His face was full of stubble. "Me?" Lin Feng stopped. The man laughed heartily. "My name is Wild Bull, a free general. I'm at the 9th rank of the 10 Millennia realm. There are 2 of my brothers over there." Lin Feng replied with a smile. "Even your name is unfamiliar," Wild Bull muttered. "Wild Bull," the bearded man muttered. He looked Lin Feng up and down, but it was like he was looking at a lake. He could not see through Lin Feng at all. He could not help but ask, "Brother Lin, are you going to the God Spirit Ruins?" "Yes," Lin Feng answered. Wild Bull nodded. "Since you're alone, why don't you come with us?" Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He looked at Wild Bull. Normally, free generals had their own teams, and they rarely let strangers join them, just like the Miracle Team. Wild Bull didn't even know who he was, but he invited him to join. It was strange. "Brother Lin, you might not know, but there's a fight inside." Wild Bull pointed in the direction of the Divine Ruins and said sadly, "2 of our brothers have died." Then he turned his body slightly to the left, revealing a deep scar from his left shoulder to his back. "My injuries are considered light. 2 of my brothers were injured, and they only recovered after a few days of rest." Lin Feng nodded and couldn't help but smile. This bearded man, nicknamed Wild Bull, was interesting. He wanted Lin Feng to join, but he revealed his team's trump card. However, Lin Feng was more curious about what happened in the Divine Ruins. -9-9-9-9-9. Why is there a fight inside? Lin Feng asked. Wild Bull revealed an ominous glint. Isn't it all because of those bastards from the Luotian Union? Now, the Glory Union and the Luotian Union are all at war. Even the White Tiger King and Zhu Qing made a move. Now both sides are enraged and kill on sight. Lin Feng frowned. In one courtyard there were 2 alliances. The Glory Alliance and the Luo-Shan Alliance were equally famous, so they were like fire and water. The Zhu Qing that the Wild Bull mentioned was the number 2 character of the Luo-Shan Alliance. His strength was extraordinary. Who won? Lin Feng asked. I'm not very sure. Wild Bull knew what Lin Feng was asking, but they all seemed to be injured. Lin Feng nodded. One was one of the 4 kings of the Glory Alliance, and the other was the number 2 of the Luo-Shan Alliance. It was normal for the Luo-Shan Alliance and the Glory Alliance to be in a killing frenzy. However, Lin Feng wanted to know why the Luo-Shan Alliance and the Glory Alliance were fighting. "Bring me to meet your brothers." Lin Feng smiled and looked at Wild Bull. The latter was slightly startled and suddenly laughed. Sure, there was no harm in following the team. Lin Feng had just entered the Divine Ruins. The 6 treacherous lands were full of mysteries, not to mention the current situation where the Luo-Shan Alliance was at daggers drawn. Wild Bull and the others had stayed here for half a month and knew a lot of things. Following them would allow Lin Feng to quickly enter the zone. Of course, Wild Bull's unruly personality was also a big factor that attracted Lin Feng. People were important. "Yeah, we call her little sister," Wild Bull introduced. "Hello." Lin Feng smiled. She was a girl next door with a pink bow, an arrow on her back. Her big eyes revealed a smile as she extended her hand. "Hello, Brother Lin." Light attribute? Lin Feng sensed the source of light on little sister. "Don't look at our little sister." The black-armored man beside him hugged little sister's shoulder and smiled. "Not only is her archery godly, her close combat movement is also like a ghost. Last time when we were fighting with those bastards from the Luo-Shan Alliance, it was all thanks to little sister that we were able to escape." Lin Feng smiled and gave a thumbs up. "Black, you can call me Black Dragon." The black-armored man tilted his head, revealing a tattoo of a black dragon on his neck. "Lin Feng." Lin Feng extended his hand. Birds of a feather flocked together. It could be seen that both little sister and Black Dragon were easy to get along with. To be able to join such a team, although it wouldn't be long, it should be a good journey for him. "Haha," Wild Bull laughed heartily. "Come, let's welcome our new member of the Bullhorn team, the Free Army leader Lin Feng." Although Lin Feng didn't admit it before, he didn't deny it either. The carefree Wild Bull naturally regarded him as a free army leader. Moreover, almost everyone who entered the base was a strong army leader. "My captain, don't be wishful thinking." Black Dragon rolled his eyes. "When did Lin Feng join the Bullhorn team? He's just temporarily moving with us." "No." Wild Bull was stunned. "Of course not." Black Dragon shrugged his shoulders at Lin Feng. "If not, then so be it." Wild Bull didn't care. "Anyway, Brother Lin doesn't have a team. It's not allowed to join in the future, right, Brother Lin?" Lin Feng nodded with a smile. Black Dragon ridiculed. "If you ask like this, how do you want people to answer?" Wild Bull laughed and looked at youngest sister. "What's wrong, youngest sister? You seem unhappy. What are you thinking?" Youngest sister came back to her senses and smiled gently. "I'm not unhappy, Captain. It's just—" Youngest sister looked at Lin Feng, her big eyes flashing with curiosity. "I seem to have heard the name Lin Feng somewhere, but I can't remember." Black Dragon smiled. "Everyone is a free army leader of the Glory Alliance. It's normal to have heard of the name." "That's true." Youngest sister nodded. Lin Feng didn't break it. He knew where youngest sister had heard of it. 2 years ago, as an ace soldier, he overcame all the difficulties and won the ranking competition. It caused a sensation. Lin Feng's name naturally resounded. But now 2 years had passed. The road of glory qualifiers and ranking competitions were held every year. In addition, he hadn't appeared for 2 years. Naturally, he was forgotten, but the fact was, it didn't matter if they knew him or not. "When are we leaving?" Lin Feng asked. Wild Bull glanced at youngest sister and Black Dragon. "How are your injuries recovering?" "I'm just injured," youngest sister said. "I've recovered 90%. It's enough to fight with those bastards from the Luo-Shan Alliance." Black Dragon raised his right hand, revealing his muscles. "Good." Wild Bull clapped. "Let's fight. Let's go." Chapter 1037. The Bullhorn squad entered the Divine Ruins. The 4 of them maintained a standard formation. Black Dragon was at the front with a broadsword in his hand, youngest sister was in the middle, and Lin Feng and Wild Bull were at the back of the team. The 2 of them formed a triangle with youngest sister, forming the backbone of the team. They could attack or retreat. The ancestors' spirit appeared, and Yu Huang Divine Realm rose. Lin Feng was curious. "That's right. The vision came from the Divine Ruins," Wild Bull said. "The Divine Ruins." Lin Feng's eyes shone. Although he had never been to the Divine Ruins, he had done his homework. The Divine Ruins were divided into 4 parts. The first part was the largest outer part. This was the place where Nirvana realm experts trained. Ordinary army commanders could walk here as easily as walking on flat ground. Further in was the Divine Ruins. This was the mysterious area of the Divine Ruins. Many army commanders had fallen here. Further in was the Great Divine Ruins. This was the place where most super heaven-grade holy treasures appeared. It was so dangerous that even the warlords could not guarantee their safety. The center of the Divine Ruins was the Divine Ruins. It was said that the Divine Ruins lived there. The phenomenon in the land of gods can be seen clearly from the outside. Lin Feng asked in surprise. The Divine Ruins were huge. You can't see it from the outside. Wild Bull looked around carefully. But you can see part of the vision once you enter the Divine Ruins. I heard that you can vaguely see the vision in the Great Divine Ruins. It's very similar to the human ancestor, Emperor Minwu. Very similar. Lin Feng was deep in thought. In other words, it was not necessarily the case. Emperor Minwu had fallen for hundreds of millions of years. There were very few portraits of him that had been passed down until now. Those that had seen it were probably even rarer. There was no way to verify its accuracy. Regarding this, Lin Feng did not express any opinion. Seeing is believing, hearing is false. What's Yuhuan Divine Realm? Lin Feng asked. I'm not sure, but it should be something very powerful, Wild Bull murmured. Lin Feng asked curiously. Captain, if you don't know, why are you still rushing in? Wild Bull shook his head and said, I don't know, but others do. White Tiger King, Fan Xing King, and the others are all trying to squeeze in. Luo, Shan Alliance, and Miracle Garden are also here. This means that the Yu Emperor Divine Realm is definitely something good. It would be great if we could get a share of it. That was true. Lin Feng smiled. When all the human powerhouses swarmed over to snatch it, it was enough to prove its value. He moved forward quickly. The Bullhorn Squad had entered and exited the gods' ruins many times, so they were naturally familiar with the place. The periphery of the ruins only had some ferocious beasts and ferocious Beast King, and the strongest were super ferocious beasts. It was a good training ground for Nirvana stage rankers, but it posed no threat to Lin Feng and the others. Even youngest sister, who was the weakest and specialized in long-range attacks, could easily tear apart the super dire beast in melee attacks. Ferocious beasts that could threaten the Bullhorn Squad were ancient ferocious beasts that existed in the ruined world and had undergone a second bloodline awakening. The gods' ruins are not bad, Bison said. Wild Ox said, there aren't all kinds of monsters here, so the danger is relatively low. Although there are mutated ancient beasts and spirits of nature, compared to the Death Knell graveyard filled with monsters and poisonous plants, the Gate of Heaven's Wrath is much better. Lin Feng nodded. The danger level of the gods' ruins was considered low among the 6 forbidden lands. Of course, that was only relatively speaking. The 6 forbidden lands were natural dangers that could not be underestimated. Although human powerhouses entered and exited the gods' ruins all year round, it was still very mysterious until now. I heard that the gods' ruins were terrifying when it was first opened. The metal monsters had no blood, no sense of pain, and were tyrannical. They killed the human powerhouses until they cried and screamed. Not a single one of them was left, Bison said. But they gradually disappeared, and the danger of the gods' ruins decreased day by day. Metal monsters? They should be high-tech mechanical warriors, Lin Feng thought. The existence of the gods' ruins was basically certain that planet Nemo once had a technological civilization. After all, the life essence of the demon race was not as good as before. However, mechanical warriors were different from ferocious beasts. Ferocious beasts could reproduce and evolve to increase their strength. Mechanical warriors were usually driven by energy. When their energy was depleted and could not be replenished, they would naturally die. Furthermore, the mechanical warriors were created. Killing one meant one less. The real danger of the gods' ruins now comes from the humans themselves. Bison's voice contained a tinge of sadness. The 5 of us, the Bullhorn Squad, have entered and exited the gods' ruins more than 10 times. Every time, 5 of us entered and 5 of us exited. But this time, sigh. Bison frowned and did not speak anymore. Although he was sad, as the captain, he shouldered the responsibility of the squad. He could not be swayed by his emotions. Lin Feng could understand. A good squad had been disbanded just like that. Luo Shun Alliance. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He was secretly on guard. They were already incompatible with the Glory Alliance. Now that the gunpowder was ignited, the confrontation between the White Tiger King and the second-ranked giant of the Luo Shun Alliance officially announced the hostility between the two forces. Now that he had entered this whirlpool, he naturally could not escape. However, it's interesting to be able to have a life and death battle with the experts of the Luo Shun Alliance. Lin Feng clenched his fist. The blood in his body seemed to be burning, revealing his fighting spirit and excitement. He longed for challenge. World of Ruins. A man with long flowing hair stood on a silver pillar, looking into the distance. Luo Shun Alliance, the captain of the Giants' third squad, Yuan Kuei. Captain, there's movement. A shadow flashed, and a masked man with a thorny head appeared. Speak, Yuan Kuei said in a deep voice. The Bullhorn squad has entered the outer region's far wild ridge. The masked man said. 3 people? Yuan Kuei asked. The news is that there are 4. One of them is a new addition. The masked man said. Yuan Kuei raised his eyebrows. It's a new face. He's very young. He should have just become a free general not long ago. The masked man said. Yuan Kuei nodded and sneered. They don't know what's good for them. They were lucky to escape last time. This time, they delivered themselves to our doorstep. Yes. The masked man sneered. Captain Tianzhu, if Wild Bull had hidden that thing in the Glory Alliance's encampment, we wouldn't have been able to do anything to him. But this idiot used a treasure sword as a wooden sword. He's so stupid. Yuan Kuei said. He knows too little. What should we do, Captain? The masked man asked. Yuan Kuei's long hair fluttered. He said indifferently. We'll wait here for them to enter the world of ruins. There's still 2 days. If we're lucky, we might be able to get one ourselves. The masked man hesitated. Won't this? Don't worry. Yuan Kuei was confident. He smiled. Only we know what the Bullhorn squad got. We'll stay here. Wait for them to send it over. Chapter 1038. Zhu Qing belongs to the 3rd team. Lin Feng said softly. Wild Bull nodded his head. The Luo Shun Union walks the path of the elites, so the power structure is very clear. Luo is at the top of the pyramid and has absolute strength and power. The second level of the pyramid is Zhu Qing, Bai Lang, Yinli Zi, and the other 4 life-breaking stage experts. Each of them controls several teams, which are either composed of Heaven Glimpse stage experts or one Heaven Glimpse stage expert, leading several 10,000 life stage experts. Zhu Qing belongs to the 1st team, which has 4 Heaven Glimpse stage experts. The 3rd team has 1 Heaven Glimpse stage expert, leading 4 10,000 life stage experts. The leader, Yuan Kuei, is a level 3 Heaven Glimpse stage expert. Lin Feng nodded. If the Glory Union was a huge army, then the Luo Shun Union was an alliance of elite experts. In terms of overall strength, the Glory Union was undoubtedly stronger. In terms of experts, the Luo Shun Union was better. As for life-breaking stage experts, the Glory Alliance only had 4 kings, while the Luo Shun Alliance had a total of 6 life-breaking stage experts. As for Heaven Glimpse experts, the Glory Alliance only had 1, but the Luo Shun Alliance had a total of 35. The structure of the pyramid made the Luo Shun Union more explosive and cohesive. If Amai didn't sacrifice his life to delay Yuan Kuei, we would all be buried in the ruins. While Bull sighed, there is always a gap between the 10,000 life stage and the Heaven Glimpse stage. Aren't you afraid of meeting Yuan Kuei again? Lin Feng was curious. Yes. Wild Bull grinned, but this is not a reason to retreat. We have contacted the Deadwater Warlord. After entering the ruins, we will join them. With the protection of the Deadwater Warlord, we don't need to be afraid of Yuan Kuei. If there is a chance, we can even avenge Amai. Deadwater Warlord. Lin Feng knew that she was not a free warlord. She was a glory warlord and rarely entered the 6 forbidden lands. She was one of the most respected warlords in the glory sacred region. She was kind, beautiful, wise, and virtuous. She was loved by many warlords. He wasn't surprised that the Deadwater warlord would help the Bullhorn squad. As a member of the Glory Alliance, Deadwater Army Lord had always been easy to talk to. Naturally, he wouldn't reject Wild Bull's request for help. However, Lin Feng looked at Captain Wild Bull. Previously, he had thought that Wild Bull had entered the Divine Spirit ruins to seek treasures, but now, it seemed that he was wrong. Wild Bull's real purpose was probably to avenge his 2 dead brothers. What if we meet the 3rd group of Ju Qing again before meeting up with the Deadwater warlord? Lin Feng asked. Wild Bull's eyes flashed. Impossible. 7 days ago when we fought with them, we were already close to the big ruins. They should have entered by now. It is impossible for them to be in the ruins, but if we meet again... Wild Bull's eyes fell on Lin Feng and said in a deep voice, "We will cover you and let you retreat." When their eyes met, Lin Feng saw sincerity in Captain Wild Bull's eyes. He was a man of his word. "Thank you." Lin Feng smiled. "There's a shortcut here. Although the cave is dark, there is nothing inside. Instead, there's some spring water. Drinking it can strengthen your body." Captain Wild Bull smiled. Lin Feng followed behind the group and looked around. In the 6 most dangerous places, this kind of cave was actually very scary because they didn't know what dangers there were. If they encountered it, they might not even have the chance to escape. With someone leading the way, it could save some effort. If he was alone, although he could walk out of this huge, remote wild ridge, it would take a lot of effort. After all, it was very easy to get lost in the fog. The most dangerous place in the remote wild ridge is the inconspicuous valley. If you accidentally step into it, even a 10,000-year-old expert might not be able to survive. Captain Wild Bull said seriously, "There are tens of thousands of blazing insect bats there. Not only are they ferocious beasts, but they're also not afraid of death. Their individual attack power is very strong, and they can suck blood and release poison. They are not affected by the fog at all." Lin Feng nodded lightly. His expression was slightly serious. This dark and long cave didn't give him a good feeling, as Captain Wild Bull said. It seemed there was something more. Neither fast nor slow, the Bullhorn squad had already walked more than half of it. "There is still 1/10 of the way before we can leave this cave and go straight out of the remote wild ridge." Captain Wild Bull smiled and said, "After walking out of the remote wild ridge, we can enter the Wuchi mountain range by following the stream. There's a good place there. Not many people know about it. I will take you there to nourish your body." "Nourish my body?" Lin Feng's heart moved. He was about to speak when he suddenly frowned and looked at the end of the cave. Aura. There were close to 10,000 ferocious beasts' auras. "Captain, other than the blazing insect bats, are there any other ferocious beasts living in groups in the remote wild ridge?" Lin Feng asked. Captain Wild Bull said, "As far as I know, no." "Okay." Lin Feng nodded. Captain Wild Bull didn't notice and continued. "Ferocious beasts living in groups are the most annoying. They come one after another, and you can't kill them all. Even if you don't die, you will lose a layer of skin. Maybe you won't gain anything even if you work yourself half to death." Lin Feng smiled. Captain Wild Bull nodded heavily. "That's right. Fortunately, the blazing insect bats in the remote wild ridge are almost all concentrated in the valley. Otherwise, I would rather take a big detour than take this path." Shaking his head, Wild Bull was obviously very afraid of the blazing insect bats. Lin Feng's expression was calm. He wasn't afraid of the blazing insect bats. These super ferocious beasts were mostly the snakes, insects, rats, and ants of the Beast King. No matter how many there were, he didn't care. Under the Black Dragon's lead, the Bullhorn squad was getting closer and closer to the end of the cave and the 10,000 blazing insect bats. In an instant, hey! The power in front of them suddenly exploded and a whistle sounded. Captain Wild Bull's expression changed. The giant axe in his hand shook with a thunderous sound, and he instantly shouted, "Get ready to fight." Youngest sister moved and retreated nimbly. Her fingers that were like orchids danced like the strings of a zither. A pink bow, an arrow appeared in her hand, and the power of light condensed into an arrow. In just an instant, the three of them were already in formation and ready to fight. Their reaction speed was extremely fast. Only Lin Feng was still as unmoving as a mountain. However, his pair of sharp eyes flashed with a sparkling luster, like the blazing sun in the dark night. Rumble! The cave shook violently, and their eardrums seemed to be about to burst. The supersonic attack instantly made Captain Wild Bull's eyes widen, and his expression changed. Blazing insect bats! Impossible! How could it be blazing insect bats? Just as he finished speaking, a black shadow had already landed in front of them. It was Black Dragon. Nearly 10,000 blazing insect bats. Get ready to fight, Captain! Black Dragon shouted and stood side by side with Wild Bull. They were like two city walls that wouldn't fall. Damn it! Although Wild Bull was shocked and puzzled, he quickly calmed down and the giant axe flashed with lightning. Boom! 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 Chapter 1039. Only Lin Feng stood calmly. It seemed that he was inexperienced and did not have time to react, but that was not the case. An invisible aura filled the dark cave. The three members of the Bullhorn Squad, who were completely tense, could not feel it, but they could. The demon race had a stronger sense of danger than humans. Wild Bull and Black Dragon stood at the very front. One of them had a huge axe that was brimming with lightning, while the other had a broadsword that was brimming with Gang Chi. Even though they had fought with the blaze insect bats before, it was because of this that they were even more fearful. This was definitely not an enemy they wanted to meet. There were nearly 10,000 blaze worms in the cave, which gave them a geographical advantage. Even if they could win this battle, they would probably suffer heavy injuries. However, they had no way out. Drip, drip, time passed quietly, just like the cold sweat dripping from Wild Bull and Black Bull's foreheads. However, the battle that was about to break out did not happen. The sound of the cave collapsing became smaller and smaller. The ultrasonic waves gradually disappeared, and everyone left. They're gone, Lin Feng said. The three members of the Bullhorn Squad were too nervous, so nervous that they even lost their sense of their surroundings. They're gone? Wild Bull and Black Dragon were stunned and looked at each other. Their slightly pale faces instantly sensed something, and then they showed an expression of disbelief and surprise. They're really gone. No way, we're so lucky. Black Dragon was overjoyed. Huff, youngest sister, pressed her chest. The three were overjoyed. They had survived a disaster. It seems that we're very lucky this time. We didn't get worse. Captain Wild Bull said with satisfaction. The blaze worms are very aggressive and rarely retreat. Although I don't know why, we're really lucky this time. Haha. Brother Lin Feng brought us good luck. Black Dragon put away his broadsword and smiled. Lin Feng smiled. His gaze fell to the end of the cave. He knew why the blaze worms retreated. There were not so many coincidences and luck in the world. The blaze worms retreated because they felt danger. Seeking good luck and avoiding evil was the instinct of ferocious beasts. They would attack when facing 10,000-year-old powerhouses, but when facing Heaven Glimpse powerhouses, no matter how many blaze bugs there were, they would just be sending themselves to their deaths. Beasts of the Demon Clan who had a strong sense of danger would not do such a stupid thing. The three members of the Bullhorn Squad waited for a while. Only when they were sure that the blaze worm bat had left did the three of them put down the heavy burden on their chests and continue forward. However, compared to their previous calmness, they were even more cautious this time. Even their speed was much slower. Although Lin Feng knew that the blaze bug bat had left, he did not point it out. Look, Black Dragon pointed outside the cave. Skeletons, armors, and shiny storage rings lay quietly on the grass. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. He could vaguely smell the scent of blood. The owner of these skeletons had died not long ago. There was no flesh and blood left. Combined with the strange appearance of the bats, the answer was basically confirmed. They should be fighting the blaze insect bats in the valley. They were defeated and fled. Captain Wild Bull said in a muffled voice, but the blazing insect bats are extremely aggressive. They chased us all the way here and killed this group of exhausted martial artists. The youngest sister's pretty face paled slightly, as if she was imagining that bloody scene. It was definitely too horrible to look at. Black Dragon nodded. When we arrived, the blaze insect bats should have just finished killing and were resting in the cave. We were unlucky and just happened to run into the muzzle. With a soft sigh, Black Dragon helped the youngest sister bury the skeletons. Although they did not know each other, it was fate that they met. Let's go. We can't stay here for long, Captain Wild Bull said. Everyone nodded. Although they did not know why the blaze insect bats suddenly left, this place was obviously no longer safe. They walked out of the wild mountain range. The Bullhorn squad followed the stream and quickly entered the Wuchi mountain range. This endless mountain range was like the border of the god ruins, guarding this area. Entering here meant stepping into the center of the god ruins periphery. Let's go, Brother Lin Feng. I'll take you to a good place. Wild Bull patted Lin Feng's shoulder heartily. I'll give you a good nourishment. Black Dragon smiled. After a period of hurrying, everyone had become more familiar with each other. Okay. Lin Feng responded with a smile. What he could get was secondary. It was more about the Bullhorn squad's sincerity. This was their way of treating guests. There was no need to refuse. In his opinion, it was the spring water in the mountains, fruits, and so on. They were born from the essence of heaven and earth. Eating them could strengthen the body. They walked up the mountain. The terrain was dangerous and the abyss was dangerous. They could sense the aura of many ferocious beasts around. But along the way, they rarely encountered ferocious beasts. Don't you think it's strange? Captain Wild Bull asked. Black Dragon nodded. Although I've been deliberately avoiding ferocious beasts, we've only fought once or twice along the way. It's really strange. Those ferocious beasts seem to be avoiding us. It's rare for them to do that. They're afraid of us. The youngest sister smiled. Captain Wild Bull said, in my opinion, it's because of the phenomenon in the sky and the rise of the Emperor Divine realm. Moreover, a large number of human experts have entered the god ruins. The ferocious beasts are not without intelligence. They know how to seek fortune and avoid disaster. It's not wise to fight with human experts in such a situation. Everyone nodded. Maybe it's because of Brother Lin's good luck. The youngest sister smiled. We even avoided the blaze insect bats. Right? Lin Feng smiled. As everyone moved forward slowly, suddenly, Lin Feng's heart trembled. He looked to the left not far away. On the other side of the mountain, there were a few auras rushing over. Among them, there was a Heaven Glimpse expert and 5 10,000 life stage experts. It was rare to see them in the periphery of the god ruins. No killing intent. They should be passing by. Lin Feng quickly made a judgment. There were a lot of martial artists entering the god ruins. It was normal to bump into them by chance. There was no need to avoid them. Everyone was going in the direction of the ruins. They continued to move forward. Suddenly, the atmosphere froze. The Bullhorn squad's fighting spirit burst forth. Captain Wild Bull held a giant axe with a murderous aura. Lin Feng looked into the distance. The newcomers were the Luo Shin Union that Captain Wild Bull had mentioned. They were now fighting with the Glory Union. However, it wasn't the giant third squad that killed 2 of the Bullhorn squad's martial artists. The swords were drawn. The Luo Shin Union's group looked over with fear. The Heaven Glimpse expert in the lead was a stalemate. However, he raised his hand and left. The battle didn't start. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel puzzled. He looked at the relieved Captain Wild Bull. Isn't the Luo Shin Union and our Glory Union like fire and water? Why did they? Lin Feng didn't understand. The other party didn't have the ability to sense danger like the ferocious beasts. It was even more impossible for them to detect his strength. However, they retreated without fighting. It was very strange. Chapter 1040. The Glory Alliance and the Luo Shin Alliance are like fire and water, but they won't fight every time they meet. Captain Wild Bull said, some of them fight for benefits, and some of them fight for pride. That was the White Wolf Squad for. They're indeed stronger than us, but attacking us won't bring them any benefits. Lin Feng nodded. Indeed, even if they could defeat the Bullhorn Squad or even kill them, what would they gain? If they really fought to the death the moment they met, the ruins, and even the Great Ruins, would already be like Mars hitting Earth. After all, the Glory Alliance and the Blue-Ocean Alliance were the two strongest powers other than the Miracle Garden. Once they fought, the consequences would be unimaginable. Now that the Demon Star has appeared, we should be united. Even if the two alliances fight to the death, the Miracle Garden will definitely act as a mediator and stop this war. Lin Feng analyzed in his heart and instantly understood most of it. He looked at Captain Wild Bull. Since it's like this, then why did the giant squad 3? Who knows, they're a group of lunatics. Captain Wild Bull was instantly filled with anger. Before them, we met several Luo-Shan alliance teams. Although they didn't like each other, they wouldn't fight and directly take people's lives. Youngest sister's face was as cold as ice. These bad people don't talk reason at all. They don't say anything and immediately come for our lives. Oh, Lin Feng's eyes shined. Things have become a bit strange. There must be a reason for this abnormality. The Luo-Shan Alliance's elite teams weren't reckless people, unless... Did anything special happen before we met the giant squad 3? Lin Feng asked. Captain Wild Bull was stunned. His brows suddenly knit together as he fell into deep thought. Yes, the ancestors appeared, and a vision descended from the heavens. Youngest sister said from the side, I remember it very clearly. Not long after the vision descended, we were attacked by the giant squad 3. Vision descended from the heavens? Lin Feng said in astonishment. Yes. Captain Wild Bull nodded heavily. We were extremely unlucky. We encountered a metal monster. It was the one I mentioned to you before. It only existed when the gods' ruins were first explored. It is now extinct. It attacked us as soon as it saw us. Metal monster? Lin Feng was shocked. After hundreds of millions of years, it was impossible for the high-tech mechanical warriors to still be alive. No matter how much energy they had, they should have been exhausted. What's the approximate strength of the metal monster? Lin Feng vaguely grasped the main point. A top-level 10,000 years old expert. Captain Wild Bull said, but it's invulnerable and has an endless supply of energy. It doesn't feel any pain, as if it was born to kill. Killing it took us a lot of effort, and in the end, it's self-destructed. Self-destruct? Lin Feng frowned. Nothing is left behind. Captain Wild Bull shrugged. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something and looked at youngest sister. It seems that there are still some fragments left after the explosion, right? Sister Yao nodded. Yes, in the end, it seems that the Imam took it away. Imam, a member of the Bullhorn squad who is now dead. Can I have a look? Lin Feng asked. Sure. Captain Wild Bull immediately rummaged through Amao's storage ring and murmured, a remnant fragment. I don't know why Amao kept it. Lin Feng's expression was solemn. A mechanical warrior that appeared again after hundreds of millions of years and left a fragment after self-destructing proved that this fragment was definitely not ordinary. If he didn't guess wrongly, it's this one. Captain Wild Bull handed over a fragment. Lin Feng reached out and took it, his eyes flashing. The fragment was like a crystal, showing the shape of a water chestnut. The bright white luster seemed to contain many secrets. The light kept flashing, as if it contained a considerable amount of energy. Lin Feng held this crystal fragment and tried to explore the secrets, but his soul entered, but he didn't gain anything. This was a piece of high-tech crystal fragment, or rather, it may be the core of a mechanical warrior. Lin Feng said, Really? Captain Wild Bull was stunned. I always felt that it wasn't ordinary. How could the fragments become such a regular water chestnut shape after the explosion? Youngest sister said, So, because of this thing, the third squad of Giant King chased after us at all costs. Captain Wild Bull wasn't stupid and quickly understood. 10%. Lin Feng returned the water chestnut crystal fragment. Captain Wild Bull looked left and right curiously, wanting to explore its secrets. But no matter how he looked, it was just a fragment. He laughed self-deprecatingly. Because of this broken thing, I lost 2 of my brothers? This is definitely not a broken thing. Lin Feng said, It came from a metal monster that hasn't appeared for hundreds of millions of years, and it was connected with the heavenly vision. It is very likely that it is related to the recent changes in the god's ruins. Captain may have a great treasure that you don't know about. Captain Wild Bull opened his mouth in shock and was overwhelmed with shock. Black Dragon and youngest sister also looked at each other and were stunned for a moment. I may be a bit direct, but Lin Feng looked at Captain Wild Bull. A man's wealth is his own ruin. Captain, it is an opportunity for you to get this water chestnut crystal fragment, but it may also be a disaster. If I'm not wrong, the third squad of Giant King will definitely try to snatch it again. Swish! The expressions of the three members of the Bullhorn squad suddenly changed. Captain Wild Bull's eyes were fierce. I'm just afraid that they won't come. As long as we can meet up with the Deadwater Warlord, I don't care about the first squad of Giant King, let alone the third squad of Giant King. We are all brothers who fought side by side. Auntie and the others died too miserably, and we want to avenge them. Black Dragon said seriously, kill those bad guys of Luo Shun Union. Youngest sister's eyebrows revealed a murderous look. Lin Feng nodded. His original intention was to persuade the Bullhorn squad, but the three of them were determined, so he didn't need to waste his breath. Protect them until they meet up with the Deadwater Warlord, Lin Feng said in his heart. After all, they were acquaintances, and the three members of the Bullhorn squad treated him very well. Not only did they tell him a lot of secrets about the god's ruins, but they also brought him in. Since they were all members of the Glory Alliance, he would help them if he could. Anyway, for him, it's not a bad idea to get some action. Lin Feng clenched his fists, and the corner of his mouth curved slightly. He would treat it as a warm-up for the upcoming battle. This time, there would definitely be a big battle in the god's ruins. After knowing the secret of the water caltrop crystal shard, the Bullhorn squad was a little nervous. They didn't know before, so they didn't care. But now, they knew too much, especially that the third squad of Giant King might attack them again. It was like a ticking time bomb that could explode at any time, so it was hard for them to calm down. But after all, they were army commanders, so they still controlled their emotions quite well. We're here, Brother Lin. Captain Wild Bull pointed to the front. Follow me. I'll bring you to a good place. Okay. Lin Feng followed. Chapter 1041. Be careful. There's a poisonous miasma here, Wild Bull warned. Okay. Lin Feng had already activated his aura detection. This was a strange area with a strange terrain, like a maze. It was even more difficult to distinguish directions in the poisonous miasma. However, the most dangerous thing was not the poisonous miasma, but the poisonous creatures bred in the poisonous miasma. The poisonous creatures here are not very aggressive toward humans. Their food is mostly the poisonous miasma and other poisonous creatures, Black Dragon said. As long as you avoid their territory and don't get too close to them, you'll be fine. Of course, even if you're attacked, you'll only be slightly injured. The poisonous creatures of the Nirvana stage were not enough to kill a general. Lin Feng followed the Bullhorn squad and quickly entered the poisonous miasma. With his body strength, it was difficult for the poison to have any effect, especially with the true dragon Saint Power's protection of the inside of his body. Black Dragon was familiar with the place. He had been here many times, and the poisonous miasma was getting thicker and thicker. We're here, Black Dragon's voice sounded. In an instant, Wild Bull said, Let's go down, Brother Lin. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The three of them fell vertically, as if they had penetrated a thin layer of light film. In an instant, a fragrance assailed their nostrils, and the poisonous miasma strangely disappeared. A faint mist pervaded this otherworldly place. The valley was empty and fragrant. There were no poisonous insects or monsters here, only clear spring water and various spirit fruits and spirit trees. It was quiet and peaceful. We call this place Dry Mist Valley, Wild Bull said with a smile. Dry Mist Valley, Lin Feng murmured. It was a fitting name. It meant that there was another world in the poisonous miasma. It's not a big place, but it's very secretive. Although there are many martial artists who know about it, there aren't many. Black Dragon's figure moved, and then he plucked a fruit from a fruit tree and bit into it. Lin Feng glanced at it. It's not ripe yet, right? Black Dragon laughed. Once it's ripe, you won't be able to bite it at all. Lin Feng smiled. That made sense. Looking at the barren spirit trees in the surroundings, one could tell that there were many people who patronized this place. The dry mist valley wasn't big, and one could see through it with a single glance. Other than these spirit trees, the rest, there was only this clear spring water. Is it this? Lin Feng pointed at the spring water. Yes. Youngest sister smiled sweetly. The heavenly mist spring is very special. Soaking in it will give you a burning sensation on your skin. It can improve your physical fitness. Okay, I'll try. Lin Feng accepted the good intentions of the Bullhorn squad and gently leaped into the mist heavenly spring. In an instant, he was enveloped by the spring water and streams of energy poured into his body. Sure enough, there was a slight burning sensation, but it was very little. It was like a skin massage. Lin Feng was very satisfied with the steady nourishment and improvement of his body. Indeed, his body had not improved by much. However, it was not because of the heavenly mist spring, but because of himself. His physique was comparable to that of the demon race, and his physique could be said to be at the top among human martial artists. Naturally, the effects of the heavenly mist spring were greatly reduced. However, it was better than nothing. Moreover, this was still a token of the Bullhorn squad's good intentions. Same old rules. On the shore, Captain Wild Bull and the other two were already assigning people and time according to the order of strength. After all, this was one of the 6 most dangerous lands. No one knew what would happen in this unfamiliar place. They had to be fully prepared. With one person on guard, the others could cultivate in peace. Origin Sea. Lin Feng's consciousness had already been immersed in the Origin Sea due to his body's self-absorption. He had comprehended the 6 paths of darkness. His bloodline had awakened for the 3rd time, and he had obtained the light and darkness body. Since he knew his talent and potential, Lin Feng had already decided on everything. Cultivating both light and darkness, he could only unleash 100% of his potential by cultivating according to his bloodline. Currently, his light cultivation had far surpassed his dark cultivation. First, obtain the recognition of the darkness origin. Lin Feng's goal was clear. First, strengthen the dark heart. Currently, he was only relying on the grand nirvana to light up the dark demon Tao. At the 3rd level of the origin star realm, the dark heart and thunder heart were both 100 times stronger and 10 times weaker than the light heart. After obtaining 5 types of darkness origin, the dark heart can reach 500 times stronger. After obtaining the recognition of all 6 types of darkness origin, the dark heart can reach a perfect state, 1,000 times stronger than the limit of the 3rd level of the origin star realm. Lin Feng was instantly immersed in his thoughts. For the current him, obtaining the recognition of the origin energy was not difficult. Captain Wild Bull was practicing his axe in the dry mist valley. As the captain, he had to set an example. Every time, he was the one on guard the most. He did not care. His brothers would not care so much. The axe rumbled and lightning flashed. Suddenly, Wild Bull frowned and turned to look at the dry mist spring. Darkness origin. Wild Bull was stunned. He smiled and did not pay too much attention to it. After all, breakthroughs in cultivation were too normal. Then, he continued to practice his axe. After a while, Wild Bull stopped and looked at the dry mist spring. He exclaimed, "Lin Feng, this kid is not bad." In just a few hours, he obtained the recognition of the darkness origin. He is very lucky. It seems his talent in darkness is not bad. Heroes come from the young. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Wild Bull praised a few words, and then began to practice his axe again. Rumble. Boom. Boom. The earth shook. Wild Bull's axe fell, and he nodded in satisfaction. Although the Bullhorn squad was attacked and 2 of his brothers died, that bloody battle had benefited him greatly. His axe technique had improved by another level. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. Wild Bull ground his teeth. He really wanted to kill his enemy and take revenge for his 2 brothers. Imam, Aunt, wait a while more. I will definitely take revenge for you. Wild Bull's fighting spirit was boiling. Lightning flashed. Suddenly, what? Wild Bull turned his head and looked at the dry mist spring. His eyes widened. Again, he had obtained a recognition of the darkness origin. Wild Bull was experienced and naturally knew about the sudden appearance of strange phenomena. However, he was shocked by Lin Feng. In just a few hours, he had obtained a recognition of the darkness origin 3 times in a row. It was simply inconceivable. Apart from the Grand Nirvana breakthrough, it was not easy for a 10,000-years-old expert to obtain the recognition of one of the origins. A few days, a few months, a few years, or even a few decades were normal. There are also a few hours. If one was lucky, one would have an epiphany when comprehending the profound meaning, but obtaining the recognition of the origins consecutively was too terrifying. Comprehending 3 great Tao of darkness in a row. Wild Bull looked at Lin Feng in the dry mist spring as if he was looking at a monster that he had never seen before. He was shocked. At this moment, he could do nothing but sigh. Comparisons were odious. I have stepped into the 10,000-years-old stage for decades, and I have only comprehended 3 great Tao of lightning. This kid caught up with me in a few hours. Wild Bull sighed. In addition to envy, there was admiration. Wild Bull took a deep breath and continued to practice his axe. But 3 hours later, Wild Bull was dumbfounded. Mother Kerr, do you still want me to live? Wild Bull's bell-like eyes widened. Even his axe fell to the ground. He stared at Lin Feng in the dry mist spring, his body trembling uncontrollably. Lin Feng had comprehended it again. Chapter 1042. It was the 4th comprehension. In addition to the great Nirvana Tao of darkness, Lin Feng had comprehended a total of 5 great Tao of darkness. What a terrifying aptitude of darkness. Wild Bull was secretly shocked. Usually, martial artists had their strengths and weaknesses. The 6 great Tao of darkness were different. Although they all belonged to the darkness source, they were completely different paths. Many martial artists had strong aptitudes of darkness because of one of the great Tao of darkness. There were very few martial artists who had 3 great Tao of darkness. It was very rare to have 4 great Tao of darkness. As for 5 great Tao of darkness, it was even rarer. Usually, many martial artists who obtained the recognition of the great Tao of darkness would spend a lot of time and effort to obtain the recognition of the great Tao of darkness. However, Lin Feng was different. He comprehended them consecutively in a short period of time, cultivating 5 great Tao of darkness at the same time. A super rising star. Wild Bull's evaluation of Lin Feng increased again. Those martial artists who spent a lot of time and barely obtained the 5th and 6th great Tao of darkness would find it difficult to progress further because the second layer was 10 times or even 100 times harder than before. However, Lin Feng was different. Since he could continuously obtain the recognition of the great Tao of darkness without any gap, then he might have the second layer or even the legendary 3rd layer. His future is limitless. Wild Bull sighed. Looking at Lin Feng, he no longer had any thoughts of comparison in his heart because he knew that Lin Feng's future was not something he could imagine. At the very least, they are all top-notch warlords. What Wild Bull didn't know was that Lin Feng in front of him was already an invincible existence in the Heaven Glimpse realm. Time slowly passed. It's about time to change to Black Dragon. Wild Bull stopped practicing his axe and moved his body. His fist made a bone-cracking sound. Just as he put away his axe, a familiar energy appeared again. Wild Bull's heart beat wildly. It was as if he was struck by lightning. He stared blankly at the mist spring with his eyes wide open. The rich great Tao of darkness gathered. Lin Feng, who was immersed in the spring water, was like a son of darkness. It was shocking that the 6th grand Tao of the essence of darkness. Wild Bull was completely suffocated. When Lin Feng obtained the acknowledgement of the 5th grand Tao of darkness, he'd thought of this possibility, but it was too inconceivable. According to his knowledge, only a few life-breaker experts had comprehended all 6 grand Taos, but most of the time, they had to rely on their strength and treasures to barely comprehend it. 4 hours, just a little slower than before. Wild Bull's breathing was rapid, and it was difficult for him to calm down. Lin Feng's strength made him feel fear, fear that came from the bottom of his heart. He was a monster who could comprehend 5 great Tao of darkness in 12 hours. One had to know that Lin Feng had already obtained the recognition of the best darkness source through the great nirvana. Now, there were only 5 origins of darkness left. Is he still human? Wild Bull muttered to himself, feeling that the power hierarchy in his mind had collapsed. His entire body was numb like a machine. At this very moment, oh, the darkness origin? A confident and slightly surprised voice sounded, with a hint of contempt and sneer. In an instant, Wild Bull came back to his senses, and his palms were covered in cold sweat. He was shocked by Lin Feng's shocking talent of darkness, so he didn't notice that someone was approaching. Pung! Wild Bull's aura instantly erupted, not only for self-protection and deterrence, but also to wake up his companions at the fastest speed. At this moment, he finally had the time to carefully observe the newcomer. Miracle Garden. Wild Bull's eyes lit up, and his nervous heart immediately calmed down. He was most afraid of the Luo Shin Union. He didn't need to worry about the Miracle Garden's martial artists. As the leader of the human powerhouses, they rarely made a move against other humans. Most of them were superior existences. A group of 5 people, 3 men and 2 women, led by a man with a long black beard. He was wearing a blazing white martial robe with the clear mark of the Scarlet Sun clan. The most prominent feature of the black-bearded man was the purple-green gourd hanging on his waist. Drunken Swordsman, Senior Red Wine. Wild Bull bowed his head in salute. Of the 5 clans of Tian Mo, Red Wine of the Scarlet Sun clan, rank 9 Heaven Glimpse Stage, a first-class powerhouse with a prominent reputation. Red Wine casually nodded with his hands behind his back and landed on the ground. Then 2 men and 2 women landed behind him. The men were handsome and extraordinary, and the women were valiant and formidable. They were first-class beauties. Oh, you've been recognized by the source of darkness. Behind Red Wine stepped out a black-haired youth with his head held high. His tall nose was full of arrogance. He was the one who spoke just now. He was wearing a martial robe with the mark of the Scarlet Sun clan, looking superior. The Scarlet Sun clan, who specialized in the path of light, naturally had some hostility and contempt for the path of darkness. Red Buzui. Wild Bull recognized the proud youth in front of him. He was the son of Red Wine, a rank 8 10,000 life stage powerhouse. As the Scarlet Sun clan, which was the best at fighting among the 5 clans of Tian Mo, his talent was first class, comparable to a Heaven Glimpse stage powerhouse. Senior Red. Black Dragon and youngest sister also saluted out of politeness. Red Wine nodded slightly, but his eyes were fixed on Lin Feng, who was in the mist heavenly spring. He couldn't sense the aura of this youth. You don't know etiquette. Red Buzui glanced at Lin Feng and sneered with his head held high. Wild Bull hastily explained, Brother Lin has just broken through. It's a critical moment for him to comprehend. Red Wine nodded. Red Wine snorted contemptuously with disdain in his eyes. Swish, Lin Feng opened his eyes. Although he was in the middle of breaking through, he had already noticed the arrival of Red Wine and the others. Originally, he didn't plan to meet them, but among the 5 people, there was a familiar aura. Lin Feng looked at the woman beside Red Buzui. She was wearing a white soft armor, and her petite body couldn't hide her beautiful face. Yun. Lin Feng smiled in surprise. Lin Feng. Yun didn't expect to meet Lin Feng here. She couldn't help but smile. Lin Feng and Yun knew each other in the ranking competition, but they weren't very familiar with each other. After not seeing each other for 2 years, she was already a 10,000 years old expert. Yun, do you know him? Red Buzui's eyes were alert. Yes, I'm from the Glory Alliance, Yun said. Red Buzui suddenly nodded and stared at Lin Feng with a deep gaze. There was a faint suspicion in his eyes. He looked at Yun and said hesitantly, You left the Glory Alliance? Lin Feng asked. Yun nodded. After the ranking competition, I joined the Miracle Garden and went to the 6 Forbidden Lands to train. Lin Feng nodded. Everyone had their own ambitions. The Glory Alliance wouldn't force any cultivator. Are you also here for the Emperor Divine Realm this time? Lin Feng asked. Shi Yun replied. Mainly to broaden our horizons with Senior Qi Bizi said that there was a spiritual spring here that could strengthen one's muscles and bones, so we came here. We didn't expect to meet you so coincidentally. She couldn't help but smile, revealing 2 small dimples. As the 2 of them chatted, Qi Bizi revealed a look of jealousy. Chapter 1043. His arrogant words made everyone in the Bullhorn squad frown, but they couldn't say much. Among warriors, seniority and strength were important. Senior Redwine had a high status, so it was natural for him to do so. But these words were a little embarrassing. Huh? Lin Feng smiled indifferently. He ignored Red Buzui and said to Shi Yun, the effect of the mist heavenly spring is really good. Come and try it. Yes. Shi Yun smiled faintly and walked over. The mist heavenly spring wasn't big, but it was more than enough to accommodate 2 people. Red Busy instantly widened his eyes and stared at Lin Feng. What do you mean? How can little Yun soak in the spirit spring with you? Come out. Lin Feng frowned. He didn't have any opinions about the Scarlet Sun warrior in front of him, and he knew what he was thinking. As long as he wasn't blind, he could see that he was trying to please Shi Yun. However, this arrogant and overbearing attitude made people feel very uncomfortable. Lin Feng didn't want to cause trouble, but that didn't mean he was afraid of it. By the way, Brother Lin, the Deadwater Warlord is still waiting for us. Let's go first, Captain Wild Bull suddenly said, breaking the silence. He wasn't smart, but he was experienced and could handle this kind of thing with ease. In a word, not only did he show his backer, but he also gave Lin Feng a way out. If it was an ordinary army commander, he would naturally climb down the pole. However, Lin Feng smiled faintly and said, I'm sorry, Captain. I still want to stay a little longer. Whoosh. His words made everyone's expression change, especially Red Busy. His face was ashen, and his eyes were cold. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Young and frivolous, Red Busy wasn't afraid of anyone in the Miracle Sanctuary. He didn't care about someone like Lin Feng, who was just a general of the Glory Alliance. He could not afford to lose face in front of Shi Yun. Brother Lin Feng. Black Dragon called out in a low voice, his face filled with anxiety. Captain Wild Bull's face was a little ugly. At this time, he was in a dilemma and felt very helpless. Although he didn't have much contact with Lin Feng, he was very clear about his character. Lin Feng looked amiable and approachable, but he had a proud and unyielding character. If he didn't like something, he would never compromise. The atmosphere instantly froze to the freezing point. One-on-one, Red Busy raised his head and looked disdainfully at Lin Feng. The loser will have to tuck his tail between his legs. Scram! There was an uproar. The 3 members of the Bullhorn squad sighed in their hearts, but they knew that it was impossible for them to back down now. They weren't afraid of losing face, but they were afraid that they would suffer a double loss. If that happened, not only would Lin Feng be injured, but they would also offend Redwine's group. Lin Feng smiled. His eyes skipped over Red Buzui and stared at Redwine behind him. This was a warrior that made his fighting spirit rise. This trip to the Divine Spirit Ruins was to join in the fun and fight. Anyway, he would have to fight sooner or later. It was rare for him to meet a worthy opponent. It was also good to warm up with a 9th-rank Heaven Glimpse powerhouse of the Tian Mo5 clans. He didn't have a good impression of the Tian Mo5 clans in the Miracle Garden. What's wrong? You have the guts to show off, but you don't have the guts. Red Buzui had just opened his mouth when he suddenly felt a pain in his heart. His whole body was spinning and his head was ringing. In front of him was a pair of extremely bright eyes. A terrifying aura bound him, and a golden dragon soared into the sky. Pung, pung, pung. Red Buzui's heart was beating very fast, and his face was as red as a pig's liver. He suffered a hidden loss. In an instant, the power of the bloodline flowed, and the light's source burned like a red sun. Red Buzui pulled out his sword, but in the next second, with a clang, the sword was stuffed back into the scabbard. Father? Red Buzui was stunned. Redwine pressed Red Buzui's right hand. He didn't speak until now, but he finally said, "Glory Alliance, Lin Feng, not bad." Revealing a meaningful smile, Redwine said, "This spirit spring should be enjoyed by those who came first. My son is reckless. Please don't mind." Then Redwine turned his head and shouted, "Let's go." This. Red Buzui's eyes widened. He couldn't believe that his father would say such a thing. "Let's go." Redwine looked at Red Buzui's sharp eyes. Although the latter was very unwilling, he didn't dare to disobey his father's order. He gritted his teeth and said, "Yes, father." The group followed Redwine and left. When Red Buzui left, he looked at Lin Feng with eyes full of unwillingness and anger. "Goodbye." Lin Feng bid farewell to Shiyun. "It's not safe here. Be careful," Shiyun said. "I will," Lin Feng said with a smile. After bidding farewell to Redwine's group, the dry mist valley became peaceful again. The three members of the Bullhorn squad all let out a long breath. It felt as if a lifetime had passed. Captain Wild Bull wiped the sweat on his forehead and said with a bitter smile, "Fortunately, Senior Redwine is magnanimous and has a demeanor. Otherwise, I don't know how to deal with today's situation. He's just arrogant because of his good background." Black Dragon sneered. "I hate people like him the most," Little Sister Yao said. Lin Feng smiled. They didn't get to fight, but they would meet again sooner or later. Redwine. Next time, I might not be able to avoid him. Lin Feng clenched his fists. His eyes flashed with fighting spirit. Wuchi Mountain Range. "Father, I don't understand." Red Buzui was so angry that his face turned purple. It seemed that his father had spoken and everyone had ended peacefully, but in his opinion, that was not the case. He had just challenged Lin Feng, and in the end, he had to run away with his tail between his legs. It could be said that he had lost all face in front of Shiyun. Red Buzui's heart ached when he thought of Shiyun and Lin Feng talking and laughing. "I've warned you many times. You can't be impulsive," Redwine said. "I know, father, but he's just a general of the Glory Alliance. What's there to be afraid of?" Red Buzui gritted his teeth. Redwine said, "There's always someone better than you." Red Buzui looked at his father in confusion. "What do you mean, father?" Redwine glanced at him. "You're no match for him." "What?" Red Buzui's eyes widened. His face was pale. "Impossible. He's just a general." "Who told you that?" Redwine said. "You can sense his strength." This. Red Buzui was a little confused. He then said, "He might have a treasure that can hide his aura. It's normal that I can't sense it. Since he's a member of the Bullhorn squad, he's naturally a 10,000 years old expert." Redwine said, "There are 5 people in the Bullhorn squad. Lin Feng isn't among them." Red Buzui stared blankly. Redwine said earnestly, "Know yourself and know your enemy. Only then can you win 100 battles. You're too conceited. Sooner or later, you'll suffer." Redwine's eyes flickered. He said in a deep voice, "Although I don't know where this Lin Feng came from, there's one thing I can be sure of." "What?" Red Buzui's brain couldn't react. "This Lin Feng is a heaven glimpse expert." Redwine said, "Moreover, his battle strength might not be below me." Boom! It was like a sudden clap of thunder that made Chi Buzui dumbfounded. He was petrified. Chapter 1044. The appearance of Redwine and the others was just a small interlude. Lin Feng continued to cultivate in the mist heavenly spring. He had just obtained 6 complete Great Tao of Darkness. His body was undergoing changes. Since his light core reached 1,000 times perfection, his dark core was also sprinting toward 1,000 times perfection. However, the energy required was huge and could not be completed overnight. It's not that easy to comprehend the Great Tao of Lightning. Lin Feng knew very well. His aptitude was more reflected in his bloodline. He had awakened his ancient bloodline for the 3rd time, the body of light and darkness, and the 3rd level of the origin star realm. Therefore, it was easy for him to obtain the recognition of the Great Tao of Darkness. However, his aptitude for the Great Tao of Lightning was not good. It was far inferior to the Great Tao of Light and Great Tao of Darkness. The lightning tribulation changes the level of life and how cells accept lightning energy. However, it's more reflected in the Tao of cloud and thunder. Lin Feng knew very well. The Tao of cloud and thunder was the derivation of the lightning tribulation. Because of the lightning tribulation, this great Tao of lightning had transformed. However, the other great Tao of lightning would not change much. Moreover, without the enhancement of the body of light and darkness, it would be even more difficult for him to obtain the recognition of the great Tao of lightning. "We'll talk about it later," said Lin Feng. It was enough for him to specialize in two great Tao of origin for now. The ancient bloodline that appeared in the ancient memory was very powerful. 2 days later, Lin Feng and the Bullhorn squad set off again. The outer area was vast and boundless. Nirvana realm human teams could be seen everywhere. Previously, when he was in the Nirvana realm, he had also planned to enter the 6 forbidden lands to train. Back then, the Scarlet Billow squad from the Miracle Garden had invited him. However, he had a deep grudge with the Southern Prison's AO family. Therefore, he had rejected them. "If I had joined the Scarlet Billow squad back then, I might have taken a different path," said Lin Feng with emotion. No matter what, he did not regret his choice. There's no reason for the Southern Prison's AO family to not participate in the Divine Spirit Ruins gathering this time. Perhaps I'll see him again. Lin Feng's killing intent disappeared in a flash. His killing intent toward AO Jianwei had never changed. He knew that AO Jianwei must be the same. As long as there was a chance, he would try his best to kill. Back then, he was extremely wary of the Southern Prison AO clan, but now, not to mention the Southern Prison AO clan, even if the 4 AO clans were joined forces, he would still dare to fight them. If he is also in the God Spirit Ruins. Lin Feng smiled. Then he could only consider himself unlucky. Today's phenomenon hasn't appeared yet, right? Where is it? I really want to see the face of our ancestor, Great Emperor Minwu. I can't see it clearly. When I entered the ruins, I could only see a vague outline, let alone hear. It's better than nothing, right? That's our ancestor. If we pay our respects and worship him, perhaps he'll bestow us with some opportunities. I've heard that the ancestor will give a treasure to a fated person. The Miracle Garden, the Glory Alliance, and the Luotian Alliance have all gathered here. Isn't it all for this? Lin Feng's ears were extremely sharp. Listening to the various sound around them was undoubtedly excellent information. They had gathered quite a lot of information along the way, including what the Bullhorn squad knew. According to the statistics, the ancestor had already appeared for 25 consecutive days. He would appear every day, but there was no fixed time. It had already taken a lot of time for the information to be spread. Plus, he had been cultivating and he had stayed in the dry mist valley for almost a month. Through the inference and analysis he knew, he could confirm a few things. First, when the ancestor's phenomenon appears, the water caltrop crystal fragments will appear. The water caltrop crystal fragments come from the mechanical warriors. The material is special and very precious. Second, more than 70% of the human elites have gathered in the God Spirit Ruins. They haven't left yet, which means that they haven't obtained any real treasures. However, if a treasure is unearthed and a phenomenon descends from the sky, the legendary Yuhuang Divine Realm is real. So, everyone is waiting. Finally, the human elites gather in the ruins and the great wasteland. Lin Feng's thoughts were very clear. Arriving early was not as good as arriving at the right time. Although he was late, it seemed that the curtain hadn't opened yet, so there was still time. Fortuitous encounters weren't something that could be obtained early. In addition to strength, one also needed a bit of luck. With the current speed, I can enter the ruins tomorrow and rush to the festival. Lin Feng was very relaxed. To him, whether he could obtain treasures or fortuitous encounters wasn't really that important. After all, he had already obtained one of the 3 ancient treasures of Great Emperor Minwu. While he was thinking, suddenly, the clouds were colorful and rays of light appeared at the end of the earth. Lin Feng's eyes immediately lit up and a clamor sounded around him. Time froze for an instant. Everyone looked at him with respect and admiration. Many Nirvana realm experts even knelt on one knee to salute him, a phenomenon descending from the sky. Although Lin Feng hadn't seen it before, he had heard a lot about it. Ancestor. Captain Wild Bull also bowed respectfully, and so did the Black Dragon and youngest sister. Only Lin Feng stood upright. As the rays of light continued to appear, the land was bathed in endless light, and a blurry figure gradually appeared. Yes, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. From afar, just as Captain Wild Bull said, he couldn't see clearly at all. Even the outline was blurry. However, bang, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. From afar, the blurry outline seemed to be wearing a set of armor. That set of armor was very familiar. Although he couldn't see it clearly, his intuition told him that this set of armor was the first ancient treasure that his clone obtained. Skeleton armor. It's more than 70% possible. Lin Feng nodded silently. Most of the time, rumors were false, but it didn't mean that they weren't true. The phenomenon descending from the sky might really be Great Emperor Min Wu wearing the skeleton armor and 2 other ancient treasures. Lin Feng wanted to release his clone to sense if it was real or fake, but there were too many people here. It wasn't the time. Anyway, the phenomenon descending from the sky will appear every day. It won't be too late to sense it after the Bullhorn squad arrives safely and rendezvous with the Deadwater Army. Lin Feng thought to himself, looking at the phenomenon appearing bit by bit, reaching the peak and dimming down bit by bit. The God Spirit ruins soon returned to normal. The Nirvana realm martial artist teams in the periphery continued to train. Lin Feng and the Bullhorn squad set off again. The next day, we are finally here. Youngest sister revealed a smile. Yes, Captain Wild Bull sighed. We are back again. It feels like a lifetime ago. Black Dragon's eyes sparkled. I thought I would die here. Goddamn third squad of Juqing. This time, I will meet with the Deadwater Warlord and avenge my 2 good brothers. We can't let Ao Mao and QOZ die in vain. Captain Wild Bull's murderous intent gradually appeared. Lin Feng looked around. Chapter 1045. Humin Mountain Range. Captain, they are here. The masked man reported. Yes. The captain of the 3rd squad, Yuan Kuei, nodded. Aju and Yao Gui are not back yet. Should we wait for them? The masked man asked. No need, Yuan Kuei said. As long as the Bullhorn squad is not stupid, they will meet up with the warlords. It will be difficult to make a move then. The masked man nodded. Captain, how do you know they will appear here? Yuan Kuei sneered. Everyone has a habit. Since the Bullhorn squad came from the Wild Mountain Range, they will unknowingly walk on a familiar path. Moreover, their captain, Wild Bull, is very stupid and does not know how to adapt. The masked man smiled. Indeed, he is a stupid bull. Let's go and take the Royal Crystal. Yuan Kuei's eyes flashed. Yes, Captain. What is it, Brother Lin? Captain Wild Bull asked. Following Lin Feng's gaze to the mountain range in the distance, Wild Bull showed a puzzled expression. Did the vision appear again? Hearing the word vision, Black Dragon and youngest sister also turned their heads to look. However, other than the mountains and clouds, they could not see anything. No, Black Dragon said in a daze. Youngest sister, who used to bow all year round, had the best eyesight. She seemed to see something in the clouds. She was surprised, and her pair of beautiful eyes gradually became suspicious. At this time, Captain Wild Bull's expression greatly changed. He felt a familiar aura coming. Yuan Kuei, it is the 3rd squad of the giant squad. Everyone, prepare for battle. Boom! Quick as lightning, Captain Wild Bull fiercely pulled out his giant axe, clenching his teeth and clenching his teeth. At this time, his heart was filled with despair and self-blame. He knew very well why the 3rd squad of the giant squad was here. With the strength of the Bullhorn squad, they were far weaker than the 3rd squad of the giant squad. These bastards, let's fight. Black Dragon's eyes were red. The broadsword in his hand emitted a bright light. Swoosh! Youngest sister was calm and collected. The pink bow in her hand was already knocked. Her delicate eyebrows were raised. She was not inferior to men. With a whoosh an arrow of light was shot out. This arrow directly started the battle against the third squad of the giant squad, showing the will of the bullhorn squad. Fight to the death. Even if they were not strong enough, they would not back down even a little bit. Brother Lin, we'll take care of this. Let's go. Captain Wild Bull shouted and rushed forward without looking back. This was the bullhorn squad's grudge. Naturally, he wouldn't let Lin Feng bear it with them. Brother Lin? Seeing that Lin Feng didn't reply, Captain Wild Bull was a little startled. Just as he turned his head, he saw a shadow whizzing past him. The speed was so fast that it made him gasp in amazement. It was like the incarnation of light, leaving only an afterimage in front of him. Brother Lin? Captain Wild Bull was shocked. Instantaneous clang. The black blade of sin was unsheathed. The slender arc was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. Lin Feng had long noticed the existence of the third squad of the giant squad. In fact, when he knew that the bullhorn squad had taken the original path, he knew that the third squad of the giant squad, whose target was the water caltra crystal fragment, would definitely be waiting here. However, he didn't warn Captain Wild Bull, because sooner or later, he would have to face them. Even if he avoided the third squad of the giant squad this time, he would still encounter them next time. It was better to simply lure them out and catch them all in one fell swoop. This way, he could leave with peace of mind. As for the strength of the third squad of the giant squad, he had never put them in his eyes. Thousand Knife Stream, rushing river extinction. Facing the three figures in front of him, Lin Feng directly waved his blade. Fast. The speed of the blade was like lightning. The three dragons roared and condensed a strong light source. It contained the fourth layer of the blade heart, Minute's subtlety. When Lin Feng's sinful black blade appeared, the entire human mountain range trembled. The sky shook and the earth shook. The blade light divided into three and turned into three arcs of light in the mountains, heading straight for Yuan Kuei and the other two. Chi! The two blade energies on the left and right easily killed two experts of the 10,000 life stage. The blade in the middle collided with Yuan Kuei. The latter's complexion changed greatly. His elegant long hair was already messed up. His handsome face became distorted, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. How could this be? Puff! Yuan Kuei vomited blood and retreated. Although he had used his strongest battle strength to meet the blade energy, he was still heavily injured. The strong light source was unstoppable. It was like a mountain had completely crushed him. The image of the young man holding the blade remained in front of his eyes. Yuan Kuei's heart was dead silent. He knew that this time he was finished. He had been hunting geese all day, but unexpectedly, he was pecked blind by the geese. Yuan Kuei's voice was filled with endless unwillingness. He vented all the pent-up anger in his heart. However, in the next moment, the blade light fell. It was as cold as an executioner. Yuan Kuei was directly crushed by the blade energy. He was torn into pieces and exploded in the air. There was a mist of blood. The wailing still remained in the air. The battle was over. On the other side, the three members of the bullhorn squad stared at the battle in front of them, and then looked at Lin Feng's back. They were stunned. They didn't even have time to react before the battle was over in a flash. The Giants' third team that they couldn't resist before was killed just like that. They had no power to resist. Under Lin Feng's blade, they were like children who had just learned to walk. The gap was like heaven and earth. Captain, Lin Feng threw 3 storage rings. Captain Wild Bull reached out and took them, and said in a daze, They are dead. Yes, they are dead. Lin Feng put away the black blade of sin. His smiling face did not show that he had just experienced a fierce battle. The strongest opponent was only in the 3rd order of the Heaven Glimpse stage, which was not on the same level as the current Lin Feng. Not to mention 3, even if there were 30 of them, he would still kill them. CK, the real person doesn't show off. Brother Lin, no, Senior Lin, Black Dragon said. He looked at Lin Feng with admiration. Lin Feng's strength was comparable to the Dead Navy. Brother Lin, you are so powerful. Youngest sister's eyes were full of little stars. Captain Wild Bull came back to his senses and smirked. Not only did he survive, but he also saved the Bullhorn squad and avenged the 2 dead brothers. In an instant, he felt his body was relaxed and completely relaxed. The hatred that had been suppressed deep in his heart disappeared. "Thank you, Brother Lin." Captain Wild Bull was grateful. "It's just a small matter." Lin Feng smiled and said, "By the way, the third team of the giant seems to have 5 people, right?" Captain Wild Bull had mentioned it to him, but only 3 people appeared. "Yes." Captain Wild Bull nodded. "There's also a man and a woman, Zhu Yao and Yao Gui. Strange, they have always acted in 5 people. Wait for me here." Lin Feng's eyes were bright. "Hua!" His figure flashed and disappeared.